Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Gray, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland and Wetlands Commission of Monroe. It is June 13th. The time is currently 7:04. And the first order of business, as always, is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I will like to introduce the members of the commission present here tonight, starting on my right. Our new member, Mr. Keith Romano. To his left is Clark Greengrass. To his left, Ross Mastroraco. To his left, Jim Stewart, who is a professional engineer and a licensed land surveyor. He's also our treasurer. To my left is Jeffrey Shamus, who is our vice chairman. He's a certified ecologist, certified soil scientist, and a professional wetlands scientist, right? Did I say all those things right? Yeah. To his left is Lois Spence, our secretary. Next is Donna Trzynski, our Inland and Wetlands Commission and Land Use Coordinator. To her left is Scott Schatzeline, who is a licensed professional engineer, land use director, and the town engineer, inland and wetland agent for the town of Monroe. And also with us today, as always, is Rebecca Wood, our recording secretary. I got everybody? Rousing Inland Wetlands Commission, welcome to Keith.
Welcome.
You were lied to, sir. Whatever they told you. Before we start, I am charged with reading our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland, wetlands, and watercourses within the town of Monroe. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a representation or a presentation to the commission, during and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. The commission will review town, staff, and other independent comments. The meeting will then be opened up to public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or the commission. After any and all comments, pro, in opposition, or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep any and all comments, pro and con, specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. The agenda is up here in green, shaded at the top. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes. Due to a clerical error, the public hearing for 485 Pepper Street will not be opening tonight. It will be opening at the next scheduled meeting, which is June 27th. June 27th. And I do have to add on under, let me see. Under item 6, under other, 15 Owl Hill. For discussion, is that where you have that?
That's exactly.
Okay. And then were there any other comments?
No, that's all I have.
I'm sorry, where did you have Owl Hill?
Under item number 6, other, on the front page, bottom of the front page.
Okay. Is that it?
I believe that is correct.
Okay, so in case you guys missed that, if you're here for the public hearing on 485 Pepper Street, which is Monroe Recycling and Aggregates, it has been postponed until our next scheduled meeting on the 27th of this month. Now is a period of a portion of time reserved in our agenda for public participation. This time is for the general public to make comments of a general nature not related to items on this agenda as they apply to inland wetlands. Seeing none, moving right along. We have no subdivision reports or recommendations to planning and zoning tonight. Moving on to regulated activities. These are regular meetings. First one up is IWC 2018-04-R, 8 Maple Drive, Rizio, site development and remediation to address unpermitted parking area, clearing within 150 feet of a river. This is continued from our May the 23rd meeting. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman. Members of the Commission, pleasure to be with you here tonight. Chris Russo with Russo and Rizio LLC, One Post Road in Fairfield, here on behalf of REM Enterprises LLC for the property who are the owner and for the property at 12 Maple Drive. Here with a remediation and development proposal.
Just for clarification, I'm sorry, that's 8 Maple, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, did I say 12?
Yes,
Sorry.
okay, no problem.
They
Just wanna
also
make
they
sure we're on the
also
same
own
page.
12. This is
Did you
8.
bring the stick
The
drive?
thumb drive?
The
Did you bring a thumb drive?
oh,
No. You have to pull that one out, it's okay. And I think that mouse is on. You should be able to pull it up. Just flip that over and make sure the mouse is on.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay, good.
presentations. Let's do this one. Right here. So this is the property at 8 Maple Drive. First, I want to say thank you for the patience of the commission and the staff for letting us develop this plan, and especially Scott. We've spent a lot of time preparing this plan, revising this plan. I think, Mark, I think we said we had 10 revisions of this plan. So there's been a lot of work, and I think hopefully looking at staff comments, you'll see that we've addressed a lot of the comments with this plan. This building and site have been in operation in existence for decades. My clients came into ownership of the property in 1978. It was a kitchen cabinet, custom kitchen cabinet makers there for a long time. My clients have been the owners and operators for that entire time. They are here tonight to answer any of your questions with regards to the site. I think the Commission's familiar with this site and the notice of violation that was issued against it, as well as obviously the other properties, because you're dealing with one of the neighboring properties tonight as well. The millings were placed here some time ago. There's millings on this site. There were millings on 12 Maple Drive, which was also is also owned by my client and has been remediated a neighboring property and on the town property. My clients actually came into ownership, I can zoom out, about 8 years ago of this section of the property. It was just what you see over here. You can actually see the zone division line. There's a line right here, right along here. And so they came into the ownership of this portion of the property from Kimball about 8 years ago. And that has some millings over here. And so tonight we are proposing, I have Mark Ockman here who is going to explain what we'll be doing, but to remove the millings, install a rain garden right along here, and the development portion of it really to make this a defined parking area with 35 parking spaces, but Mark will go into that too because there's a comment from Scott that might affect that and bring it down to 33 parking spaces, but proposing 35 parking spaces to support this existing building. And we also have Dean Pushlar here, who's our landscape architect, who's going to go through our landscape buffer plan And, you know, I actually probably think Mark, it's probably best if he gets right into it and just explains to you what we're proposing to do on this site.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Mark Ockman. I'm from Ockman Associates, Engineers and Land Surveyors. For the record, PELS. Basically, we are proposing to basically develop the property and add 35 additional parking spaces. So basically, we're going to add the parking spaces in this area, and there's approximately 14,000 square feet of driveway area that we'll be adding on. We're proposing a rain garden, as well as using the existing drainage system to provide stormwater treatment of this runoff on this property, or on the asphalt driveway that we're proposing.
You can use the mouse to point out anything that
Okay.
you need. I know you're struggling to
Yeah, no problem.
look at things, so you can.
There will be minimal grading proposed in the site with the construction of the proposed parking lot. The parking lot will be basically graded at a 1 to 5% slope, with the slope draining to the north as it currently does. In order to meet the town of Monroe drainage design standards, we will be providing stormwater retention via the proposed rain garden here, which everything will basically sheet flow from the driveway into the rain garden, as well as provide stormwater retention from the existing underground detention system, which was proposed in the 1989 development of this section of driveway over here, or parking lot. Both systems will provide pre-treatment and attenuation of stormwater runoff. About 3/4 of the proposed runoff from the parking lot area will run into the rain garden over here. The remaining runoff will run into this existing stormwater detention system here. It will then overflow via an outlet control structure into the existing stream, which then dumps into the west branch of the Pequannock River, which is over here. The Pequannock River is roughly 85 feet north of the existing, or of the northerly property line over here. We will be providing soil erosion and sediment control measures, which will be installed prior to any construction activities on the site. We're proposing silt fence down gradient of all proposed construction activities, as well as a stockpile area during the construction process. We'd also be providing hay bales in front of the proposed rain garden so that no sedimentation will flow into the rain garden during construction process. Now, do you? A comment occurred, or that Scott addressed, that we did not have the required 25 feet from the property line with the parking lot, as well as the 42 feet that we will need between the aisle, as well as the length of parking in this area over here. Right from this corner of the building to here, we only have 41 feet, so that we will have to be eliminating 2 parking spaces over here, which will also reduce the amount of impervious area in the parking area, which will then reduce the amount that we'll be providing for the retention of the stormwater drainage system as well.
And then we'll have Dean Pushlar to come up and explain the proposed buffer plantings. I just got to switch. Let's see here. Let me just check this one. Let's do this one.
Good evening. My name is Dean Pushler, licensed landscape architect. I'm a sole proprietor working for the REM. So I was asked to come in and plant the rain garden as well as the buffer area. I'm not sure if I can zoom this out a little bit. So the rain garden is in this area. There's a finger of it that comes up into this little island. What we're proposing is 5 trees. Those are Amelanchier, Canadensis, which is serviceberry. Large trees, small shrubs, large trees in that aspect. The existing area to the north is heavily wooded with red maples. There's ash trees in there. There's some existing white pines, pretty much staggered on the property line here and here and here. I'm proposing 3 white pines as a buffer area, 3 viburnum, arrowwood viburnum here, and so that's basically the buffer plantings interdispersed within the existing white pines. Also within the rain garden, let me zoom in. Along the bottom, where it's flat, where most of the moisture will be, I have sedge, I have iris, and blue flag iris. It's some switchgrass along the edge, winterberry along the edges, inkberry here and here, along the front, Grolo sumac here and here, and then grasses, which is a prairie drop seedgrass here and here, and some additional viburnums in this little island. So that, along with the drainage that was proposed, really will take care of stormwater. Maintenance-wise, pretty straightforward. I do have a maintenance guideline on here. Watering plants during the first growing season, weeding, inspect for invasive plant material, mulch annually to keep the weeds down, and then pruning, remove sediment as needing, which sediment once it's established and the parking lot's paved. And that's basically it for the rain garden.
Dean, can I get your spelling of your last name?
Yeah. P-U-S-H.
Thank you.
So that's our proposal. I'm sure staff will go through their comments, but just to highlight a couple, there was that question of the that Mark spoke to of the width in the parking area. We would accept as a condition of approval to remove 2 of the spaces to make sure we did conform to that. There was also a comment about additional buffer planting over here. I believe, Scott, that's the area you're referring to. Historically, and we have a picture, an aerial survey from 1990, which I will submit to you and show around. Unfortunately, I don't have copies of it, but this had really always been open area. It's really just high grasses. There was a cluster of trees around here. They were white pines that my client planted at the town's direction, but those have died over time, and so they're no longer there. But this area over here has really just been high grasses for as long as they've owned it. I mean, we're fine extending the buffer plantings, but just so the commission understands My client said that there was never, it was just always high grasses over in those areas. And I think those were the two big comments, unless Scott feels differently, of course. And again, my client purchased this property. They've owned this property since 1978. They purchased the other half from Kimball 8 years ago, which already had millings on it. There were millings around all these properties, but obviously coming here before to try to remediate that condition and define the parking area there to support this building and this use that's been existing for quite some time, and install this rain garden and put some drainage. So, and again, thank the commission's time, staff's time, everybody's patience, and everybody's input to get us here. Happy to answer any questions for Mark or Dean as well.
Other reviewing and thinking, a couple things. Go back to your drawing of the site layout. I had questioned
Sorry, I gotta switch.
the dimension for the parking lot. You're saying you could reduce by 2 spaces,
Mhm.
but I don't think you have to, because one of the things I was talking about was the actual dimension, the 42 feet. I believe that you can extend the parking lot, the pavement portion of it, into the setback. That's not a restriction on the, now, they may have a buffer. You're talking about a zoning buffer?
I think there's a zoning in the IL.
There's a zoning
Yeah,
buffer.
there's a zoning buffer of
Okay.
25 feet.
Alright.
In the B1, in the B1 zone, you don't have that, but in the I1, you're restricted
Okay.
with that, with the
I wasn't
25
sure
foot.
if you were, because you said setback line originally. All right, so you're being forced because of the zoning.
Exactly.
All right, because I was going to point out that you didn't have to with just the setback. Okay, thanks.
And Mark, that picture is in here, just to show that. It's where is it in the presentations? Yeah, of the 1990s. Okay, yeah, so if you look here, this is a 1990 aerial photo. And so you could see this area, it's the marked non-wooded area, and then you could see here this tree line area. So these were white pines that have died since, when were they planted? Early 80s.
To that point, we normally do not recommend using white pines as plantings any longer because they don't last.
Well,
So if you could come up with something that would, I realize you're trying to incorporate it into the existing ones, but if we could come up with something better than white pines that doesn't die off in a couple of years and blow over, that would be great.
We're proposing 3, okay. So,
So we could substitute with,
here, Dean, why don't you come on?
we could come up with a substitution. I was trying to use a native plant.
Understood.
So
Well, we do have other.
deer
things that are
resistant and
usable.
native is tough, and obviously the white pines, the deer browse too. So cedar, Alaskan cedar, or eastern red cedar is a possibility.
Okay. Should we-
Spruce?
Spruces.
Yeah, white spruce.
Something a little tougher.
White spruce is a little tougher, yeah. Looks a little nicer.
which
So
is
I prefer white spruce.
White spruce. Okay, so
So-
we'll use that as a substitution then.
So for the record, we would
Right.
agree to a condition of approval to replace the white pines with white spruces.
Well, it's not a condition you're offering yet, so it doesn't have to be a condition.
But we would
But yes,
offer it.
thank you.
Okay.
I had a question for Dean as well.
Sure.
I don't know that the Grollo sumac is a native, unless it's a variety of something that,
It's a Rus
Yeah.
aromatica. It is semi-native, it might not be native Connecticut.
yeah.
It's a variety.
I would rather you go
You
with,
want to use something,
yeah, and,
okay?
yeah, and you're proposing all these, the rain garden plants, you know, the woody ones, shad below 20 feet, and the other 6 feet and 4 to 5 feet, that's what you're gonna be planting.
No.
And your trees are 6 to 7 feet and 3 to 4 feet?
Are you saying in terms of diameter? Like
Mm.
what they measure on the plan versus what I'm proposing?
Well, in your remarks part, it says, is that the size that we're going to see? Is that what you're
So.
sourcing?
Amelanchier is a number 6 container, is what will be planted.
Okay, and
And it,
remarks, are you saying that it grows to 20 feet high?
yes. That's the ultimate size.
So number 3 is gonna be 24 to 36 inches, 2 feet?
I think they're 4 to 5 feet at the number 6 container.
And no, I'm talking about the 3s, number 3.
Oh, the 3s will be 2 to 3 feet.
Yeah, okay.
And the number 1s are somewhere around 2 feet, depending on where you get them from. If they're planter's choice versus, another nursery.
So that was my next question is, are these gonna be locally sourced or where would you
So
place?
that's up to the client, but typically Planter's Choice has a good selection, so that's local. Where they get them, I don't know. New England Wetland Plants is Massachusetts. They have a great
Mhm.
nursery up there. So I would certainly recommend that to the client if they're purchasing it direct, but they're probably going to hire a landscape contractor to source the material.
Mhm.
I typically don't get into where the material comes from. But I can. It's just hard to keep track of.
Well, one of the recommendations is, at
Locally
least from my
sourced.
opinion, is having, with the rain garden construction so close that, there would need to be landscape architect, a PE, monitoring during construction, certifying it's complete at the end. If there's changes in vegetation, noting those things, and then
That's great.
there would be a staff report after that, so that it's confirmed that,
Okay.
what you're proposing is actually what gets done.
Yeah, typically what we can do is we can meet with the contractor on site to lay out the plant material, and at the end, once it's all planted, I could provide a certified letter saying that it's installed according to plan. Is that not what you're asking for?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about, I'm moving on to engineering, and
Okay,
so just wanted to give you some of my thoughts.
sure, thank you.
Anybody else? I don't want
Are we okay with the comments got made about the plantings over here on this easterly side, right?
to,
Those
it's,
buffer plantings not continuing?
yeah, they're proposing just basically a landscape mix of seed grasses. That's part of the mitigation area, so, if it was wooded or vegetated before, it would be nice to have that back.
There's no curb in that area?
The curb would be part of the parking lot, or no? Is that what you're asking?
It's sheet flow right into the rain garden, but the rest of the parking lot is all,
Oh,
no
gotcha.
curbing?
Says a PR
Says curb,
curb.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a curb along the main portion, then I have an open of about a 5-foot opening with a riprap for energy dissipation
Yeah.
and for erosion going into the rain garden.
Now, which 2 parking spaces are you getting rid of?
The one that is closest by distance to this corner of the building right here.
Okay,
So it would be this one right here
Yeah.
and this one right here.
so what do you do with that area?
Basically, we can basically cross-hatch it out and just put a no parking sign there, just so that, because I have a minimal slope over there, like 1.5%.
Yeah.
If I create a curb running around, you know,
So you're
those two
just gonna
parking
have
spots.
a paved area that's marked no parking,
Correct, yes.
and that's because?
Because I have like
It's a-
minimal, I have
It's
minimal.
a zoning issue.
It's a zoning issue, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if zoning's gonna like that so much. They're gonna look for that being a green area. Why don't you put the point of runoff at the end of the parking space? So you, at that point, in the area over here, you can, what contour is that?
324,
And this one?
323.
All right, so
Yeah, 323, yeah.
usually you can, you can crease the pavement, bring it, oh, you got a catch basin there, you can't do that.
Because right now, basically where I have that valley,
Well, that's a
That's-
high point there, isn't it?
no, that would be, there are high points over here, your valley, so everything's going that way.
Can't see it.
Right now, there's kind of an existing valley there right now, and that's what I kind of wanted to maintain. Or swale, sorry.
Okay, so you've got a high point over in here,
Correct.
and this is going this way,
Mhm.
and it's going this way, so you can take this contour and pull it, you can pull it over here more so that you can warp this a little bit and make that island the high point.
Okay, yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So then you can make it a green, you might as well make it a green area, be
Okay.
cheaper, and it's less impervious pavement,
Correct.
So,
Yeah,
my take
that-
on
that-
it would be, it should be, green.
Yeah, that can be done. Maybe I don't extend it the full 18 feet out with the, with the green area.
Yeah, I mean,
Portion
typically,
of it,
you just have an island that would
Correct,
be
yeah.
where those spaces were.
I had a question on the soil and erosion control plan.
Mhm.
If you can just go ahead, if that's the sheet or not, I'm not sure.
It's a detail sheet.
Back up. Specifically, if you wanted to kind of blow up the discharge point from the rain garden into the water course. So the silt fence is proposed 2 feet from the edge of the water course at the time, whatever, at that flow that it was captured. Is there any way that you can just cut the pipe off almost right outside the edge of the catch basin goes outside and cut it right there?
Right there.
You have a riprap slope going down to the water course already, instead of being right into the water, basically, with the pipe.
The elevation's my outlet control structure is, I might have to go to the other page. Hold on. My outlet control structure, my orifice is and my invert at 318.7. Top of my orifice going into the catch basin at 321.5. I could potentially raise that up as high as the 8-inch out, coming out, going into the stream, I can raise that up as high as I possibly can. So I can, not extend the 8-inch pipe that close to the stream, cut back as much as I can.
The under drain pipe too is just as close.
And the under drain is at 318, 318.
Yeah, the under drain was assuring that what he's got is he's got water quality below the outlet orifice. So the under drain was assuring that the basin would dry out after the rainstorms. So I asked for it to be lower like that and run out a separate pipe out to the stream. So if he raises that, that's gonna be a problem with assuring water quality volume, if I'm remembering correctly.
So why not do a little tweaking with your proposed parking and shift, if you can, the rain garden further away from the edge of the head wall there? Right now,
Kind
you're,
of limited in space to put the rain garden.
well, that's what I mean, you may have to lose a couple parking spaces.
See, what he
But I
has
would
to
still have to
get that elevation.
outlet, yeah, I would still have to get that elevation, and then I can't discharge it onto the neighboring property.
We're, Jeff, they're talking about an area that's already disturbed, has riprap stone in it. And these pipes are going to be minimal, you're talking minimal velocity coming out of them. It's just an under drain. The trouble is the depth, to get the depth that he needs to drain the patient. So whether the pipe's there, in my opinion, you're better off with the pipe being close. Because if he pulls the pipe away, then he's got to ditch it. And that's where you're gonna get erosion, because it's steeper, you know? So, I don't know what, he doesn't have too many options. If they owned,
There's not too many options because of the way that the site is being graded?
no, there's not too many options because the elevation that he needs to drain it.
No, I understand that.
If he didn't go, if he wanted to not go that close to the channel, he would go off the north, but they don't own that.
Mhm.
If he could go off the north of the property there, yeah, you're right, they could put it over there and they wouldn't be anywhere near the channel. But, they don't own it. You know, this over here.
Yeah.
So they could put it out anywhere along here and they wouldn't be anywhere near the channel, but they'd have to go way out to here. And, it's closer to the big river and they don't own the property.
And the rain garden's shallow itself anyways, it's only 3 feet in
Yeah.
depth.
Well, I was just trying to find a way to basically not
Not have it so
stick it
close.
right in the water course.
I'd be more worried if it were a large detention basin from with a greater flow.
Like most of the storms, the 1 inch or less storms, it's gonna be being stored in the rain garden itself. It's one of the larger storms that it's really gonna overflow. Or you even use that, I don't really foresee it using that 8-inch overflow.
Yeah, by the time you have the larger storm, that's gonna be under tailwater.
Yeah.
So, it's gonna be underwater anyway until the storm's gone and then it'll drain out.
Yeah. Okay.
And both those side slopes of that stream that's existing riprap anyways. So it's already stabilized with that riprap.
And is the chain link fence staying? It says that there's an existing one, is that supposed to stay where it is?
I believe, was the chain link fence separating you and O'Keefe, was that by you? O'Keefe put it up, that's the neighbor's chain link fence.
Oh, okay, then that's a non-issue. I'm a little confused, and please pardon me if I missed it, but the area to the east of where you're proposing that the final 10 parking spaces, where the millings are being removed. Above it, it says millings and debris to be removed, proposed planting buffer designed by others. Is there a planting plan designed by anybody
For that section
for
there?
that section?
It's on the last,
It's in the last page? And
note 7. I think that's what it refers back to.
it does say note 7. I did not read that.
It'll just
That,
be seated.
that's
It's
just
landscaping.
seating.
Just seating.
Yeah, there you go, grasses.
So should there be some kind of line of demarcation there? Or we're gonna have the same issues? Is there any future plans for that area?
No, no. I mean, it's possible in the future, but it would be, you know, we would have to come back here, obviously. So, if there were any future plans for it, it would be, you would see it again.
So that's seeded with just grass seed, that has to be mown
That's
regularly?
the, it's in the engineer's plan, that's the note 7.
I got
It's
the
just
perennial
basically-
ryegrass,
Okay,
so
I'm sorry.
wild grass.
Wild grasses. So how often would it be mowed?
What was the question?
How often would it be mowed?
Typically, they mow that twice a year, spring,
Okay.
spring and fall.
All right, sorry for missing that. Is there a maintenance plan for the rain garden?
Yes.
There is.
I went through the maintenance schedule.
I'm sorry, I did not.
That's okay.
I must be on another.
It was on the
I
plan, it was just a
apologize.
quick maintenance thing, it was basically just weeding, fertilizing, mulching, no fertilizing typically, but
Okay. and no
removing
herbicides?
sedimentation, that sort of thing.
Okay, and no herbicides, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, thank you very much for your patience. Wetland markers, so where are they?
Yeah, no 9, no herbicides, just wanted to make sure.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
On the 2 spots have to be eliminated. Could it possibly be done where they just pave like the back edge 3 feet wide, so they don't have to regrade anything, let the water pass through and just shorten that island by a couple feet?
No, we discourage that.
With that,
That's something that it's a maintenance issue, you know, in the winter, the water doesn't go through there. So we try to avoid that. I mean, the expensive way of avoiding it is to put an additional basin in. But the way that it's graded, they'll be able to put that island and the water will go either way. It'll go away from the island in both directions, so that it's not really needed. In extreme, I've seen it happen a couple times where they've done that. It's not a great thing to do though.
yeah, I get this.
Do I hear anything else from the commission?
Are there wetland markers on here anywhere? And shouldn't there be? Are there any wetland markers plotted on the plan?
I think we're just.
No, basically it's just a channelized stream on our property, and then everything was kind of, on the neighboring property, it was just kind of site located by me. as far
Yeah,
as
so
wetlands.
I have to say that I missed that one, so we didn't talk about that.
Oh,
And
okay.
typically what happens, especially with remediation, is the commission's used to seeing markers. We have markers
Mhm.
that indicate that they're small, 4-inch
Oh,
metal,
okay,
they're
yeah,
like $1.50. And they go, there's a fence there or no fence there?
No, there's no fence
So
there.
they would go on trees or 4x4 posts. And they're typically put in, what do you guys want them, every 50 feet, 75?
Where would we
50 is
put
good.
them?
There,
My suggestion would be to put them on the property line, because it's, you know, they're gonna be maintaining
Yeah.
the rain garden.
Mhm.
Okay.
even if those wetlands are on the neighboring property lines.
Yeah, even, because it's
It just
regulated area.
demarcates the regulated area for future things.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else from the commission? Anything else from the applicant?
No, thank you for your time.
Before you close, one last thing, just for the record, the bond recommendation that was in my report was $18,000.
Were all of your comments addressed, Scott?
Everything that I need to be addressed, I believe they did. One comment about the spillway, just shifted over to the virgin, I'm assuming you didn't have an issue with that, you didn't say? No, not at all. Yeah, I think I'm okay, I can work that out.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, everybody. I
Thank
am
you.
very happy to say I will close this hearing.
Not that it was really closed, but
Oh,
exhibits.
Public.
good thing I didn't bang my gavel yet.
Yeah, right.
It's not, but you can
That's
do
the
that.
unbanked.
We don't need to do, but we don't need to do exhibits because it's remediation, right? But we should anyway.
Well, and it's
But
a
it's
regular
also
hearing,
building.
it's not a public hearing.
Okay, so we're good?
We're good?
Remember,
Oh, it's regular.
it's remediation, but it's
Oh,
also.
yes, 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 yes.
It's a development permit, so,
Okay.
um,
But it's regular hearing, so we don't have to do the exhibits.
no, I don't agree with that. I think that you should do the exhibits because.
Donna, would you do me a favor and
it's
read
for
the
the
exhibits into the record, please? Thank you.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Let's see.
We'll hold on to 8 Maple for another 5 minutes here.
Exhibit 1 was town engineer comments by Scott Schatzline. Exhibit 2 was a request by Chris Russo to defer until the April 25th meeting. Exhibit number 3 was another request to defer until the May 11th meeting. Exhibit 4 was a drainage report by Ackman Associates, and that was a document dated March 16, 2018, revision date April 29, 2018. Exhibit number 5 was a map set, 7-sheet map set titled Site Development by Ackman Associates. The document was dated April 29, 2018. Exhibit 6 is a planting list by Landscape Unlimited LLC, dated April 14, 2018. Exhibit 7, did I do that one up? Let's see. Was the Health Department comments by Rich Jackson. Exhibit 8 is updated engineering comments by Scott Schatzline, dated April 9th, revision date May 9th. Exhibit 9 was an extension to the next meeting, dated from Ray Rizzio, dated May 9th. Exhibit 10 is an updated planting plan by Dean Pushler, and that was dated May 23rd. Exhibit 11 is a bond estimate form. Exhibit 12 was updated town engineer comments by Scott Schatzline, dated April 4th, revision date June 5th. And Exhibit 13 is updated town engineering comments and the bond form by Scott Schatzline, dated April 9th, revision date June 13th.
So,
Is that it? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Closing the hearing. Wow.
Not that it's really.
All right. Next up is another regular meeting, IWC 2018-05-R, 4 Maple Drive, O'Keefe. Removal of previously placed millings and proposed construction of an asphalt driveway with grass swale and punch pool. Continued from our last meeting.
Did we get all of our thumb drives? Everybody got their thumb drives?
yes.
Carbone, Spath, Bjorklund Associates.
Good evening, Mr. Carbone.
I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut. At the last meeting, we had presented a temporary or a preliminary landscaping plan. The idea was that we're in 2 phases of landscaping. The first one, which is on the screen now, is the phase 1, which is 1, to clear the violation that's on the site, 2, to construct a driveway that meets P&Z standards and provides access to Victoria Drive for safety reasons. In addition to that, we have put a row of buffer plants along this area in here. There's also a water quality basin here and a water quality basin here. We have also planted some plants in the setback area, the 25-foot setback, up to the regulated area line. The location of this, driveway is based on this, which we have listed as the conceptual plan. It would have the driveway extending from the existing parking lot through here and accommodate a 10,000 square foot industrial building in this area. Now, this plan is just to show why the driveway's there and what Mr. O'Keefe's ultimate plan for this site will be. Obviously, it will have to have water quality treatment, it'll have to have landscaping, it'll have to have a septic system. But that is the ultimate goal for this site, and that is the reason for the location of that driveway. It was part of our discussions at various hearings that if that plan is not implemented in 3 to 5 years, rather than have that site remain just primarily grass, that this phase 2 of the landscaping plan would be implemented. This will create a area of trees and shrubs that, rather than just have it grass, which was the concern of this commission, that if the building never gets built, we want to do something with it, and we didn't want to have just a naked gentleman out there on this site, which was the...
You like that one?
Yes, I did. Anyhow, this would be the phase 2 plan. However, it is not our intent to build this or to plant this. It is our intent to build the building as shown in our concept plan. The details of this planting plan, the amount of plants is shown on the drawing. Similarly, there is one for the phase 1, the plants that are in there, using New England's erosion control mix. But the details of that I'll leave up to Cynthia Rabinowitz, who is here to describe the plans, both the phase 1 and the phase 2.
Good evening. Cynthia Rabinowitz, professional soil scientist and landscape designer. So I'm a bit of a dinosaur. My drawings are hand-drawn, although I believe that Spath Bjorklund has gusseted them up a little bit for me, because I do my drawings like this, hand-drawn, the old-fashioned way. And so it's a very simple plan. And can I actually move?
Yes,
this
absolutely.
up?
Just grab it.
What?
Do you want to show the list?
No, I wanted to show the full, the planting of the whole.
Keep going now.
Keep going down.
Right there.
This?
Yeah, I'll get it.
There we go. Okay, now it comes down a little bit more. Yeah, thanks. See, I told you I was a dinosaur. I do know how to use a computer. Although my Windows operating system crashed last week. And I was ready to throw the computer out the window, but anyway. So it's a simple plan using all native plants. I have not used any cultivars in here. In this area above the driveway, so throughout this area here, I'm calling for these trees and shrubs, 3 red maples, 3 sugar maples, and 3 American hornbeams, which are slightly smaller trees. They're generally considered an understory tree in comparison to the maples and the oaks, which would become the dominant tree in this area. And then throughout the site, among the trees, I've got 4 shrub species in groups. The Amelanchier canadensis, which you heard in the last presentation, shadblow, it's known as, or serviceberry or juneberry. It has a lot of common names. Also, Aronia melanocarpa, which is black chokeberry, which is another nice native shrub. It will take, this is all dry upland soils in this area, so we're not specifically, really looking for plants that will tolerate wetter conditions. So the black chokeberry will do well there. And then gray dogwood, Cornus racemosa, is another native species which does spread, forms nice clumps, so it will fill in and cover, good size areas. And lastly, the bayberry, which is a very nice shrub. It's also a very useful shrub because it's a nitrogen fixing shrub, and the soils here have all been disturbed, so it'll be useful to have a nitrogen fixing shrub in this area, which over time, it's not going to happen immediately, but over time those types of plants do help to rejuvenate the soil somewhat and feed the microbes that live in the soil, help to bring that microbial population back, which will be better for all the plants that live there. A lot of the invasive plants that come into disturbed sites that we're familiar with, like Russian olive, autumn olive, and other shrubby plants that come in and then take over, they're nitrogen fixing as well, but they're not native. This is a nice native plant. It has a good berry that migrating birds like, and so I like to use that in the drier sites for plantings. I've shown this pathway to be mowed, bearing in mind that the seed mix, the restoration seed mix, is going to be planted throughout this area during the phase 1, and that, if these woody plants are planted, which Mr. Carboni explained probably is not going to happen, but if they are planted, they'll be going into an established planting of the seed mix, which will contain a variety of native grasses and herbs. And so the mowed pathway, I thought, was a nice thing to have there. It helps landscape maintenance people to access the site for any kind of pruning or repair work, but those areas don't have to be mowed. It could just be left to grow in. Okay, that was that. Below the driveway, on the lower side of the drawing here, we have just a strip, because it's a very narrow area above the stone wall that is along the edge of the wetland. So between the stone wall and the proposed driveway is a very narrow area. So I've aligned the plants linearly, and I'm suggesting American hazelnut, Cornus amomum, which is silky dogwood, and Juniperus communis, which is common juniper. It's a first cousin to eastern red cedar, which is the more upright pyramidal form. the common juniper is more of a mounding shrub, but they're very closely related and look similar. And the AC, again, would be Amelanchier canadensis, the shadblow. So we're mirroring some of the plants from the upper area, upper on the screen. It's not really upper. I think that covers it. If you have any questions, happy to try to answer them.
Any benefit of the water quality basin providing some more species either within or around?
Definitely,
Yeah.
but that wasn't part of what I was asked to do this time, because as far as I understand, that's not actually going to be constructed until the building is constructed. Is that correct?
No.
But it's on the Phase 1 plan.
Right. The water quality basins are there to treat the runoff from the road. This water quality basin one here will pick up the road from here to its extent. Then we switch the pitch of the road and bring it all into water quality basin 2. That is there to treat the runoff. They will not, water quality basin 2 will not be there if and when the building is built, but until that time, for a couple of years, it will function.
So to answer the question then, if the water quality basin is going in now, and we plant it, and then that's going to be changed if the building goes in, all the plants that would be established would have to be sacrificed. So
I would think grasses would be the most
yeah, I think
efficient.
grass is a grass seed. So I can suggest a different seed mix. Also, it'll also be from New England wetland plants, because I like their seed mixes very much. And they'll have another one that will be more suitable for a wetter situation.
I was actually talking about the water quality basin on the south side of the driveway. Just wondering if, so that's just taking runoff, and there's sheet flow opening in the curb. What, could you just explain a little bit more about that?
There's no curbs.
So there's
It
no,
will be just sheet flow off the paved area and collected into that very shallow basin. It's shallow and narrow, and it really doesn't have a large volume because it's not treating a large area. So planting shrubs, obviously trees are out, but shrubs, even that is limited. I would say that a good grass mix would most likely be the best planting for that area to establish it. Now that one basin, the water quality basin 1, will be part of the permanent facility. So it does have a life to it, but again, it's a relatively confined area.
How about some, the plantings to the east of water quality basin number 2? That's in the setback area, so that will not be subject to any building in the future.
No.
But there's nothing there right now.
There's nothing anywhere.
I mean,
That
nothing on
basin
the plan.
extends up to about this contour line, but if you look at the final plan, most of that water quality basin is under the pavement right here. And
I'm talking about to the east of that, between the property line and the setback line.
this area right in here.
You have those two or three trees up at the far reaches. On the other side, you could mirror that along the side of the,
Oops. In other words, in this area?
yeah.
Yes and no. One of the reasons and one of the notes that are on here is as to the location is where we can get a septic system and where we can get a water quality treatment facilities for the development plan. We did the soils testing today, so this more than likely the septic system is going to be in this area. This area has up to 70 inches of fill has been placed in that area, extends back to in here. This area, since it's at the bottom of the site, I anticipate using for underground water quality treatment. Once that is placed or designed, then yes, plants can go in this area and would more than likely be a continuation of this road down in here. But we would have to work it around the, oh, okay.
I can hand that.
Why don't you hand that to the
Yeah, I can
commission?
hand it out.
This is another,
Copies of that.
this would be the concept plan with a preliminary landscaping applied to it. And again, it shows plants in that same, the area that you were talking about, but I don't know which side is which. But originally, we were hoping to get the septic system in the area that you're speaking of, because it's downhill, and we don't have a pump system, but the soils did not allow that. We were hoping to keep this open for the septic system, but it's not going to, it's up in this area. But again, when we come in with the final plan for the site, which we expect to be a relatively short period of time, a complete landscaping plan for this area will be part of the plans.
A relatively short amount of time, what would you anticipate that being?
I'm hoping within a year.
To bring in the new development plan?
Right. But as a fallback, we have phase 2 for if that doesn't happen.
Is the first water quality basin, that's gonna be permanent, just handling first flush type stuff?
Yes, it is 1-inch storm from, in this case, a drainage area that goes about in this area, more than, I don't have the number in front of me, but most likely half of it being paved and the other half being grassed area. But these are designed for this, what we're proposing right now, not future landscaping or future building. That's what these are for, just to meet the standards for remediation of the violation and provide the driveway. Of course, one of the main parts of this plan and why it works is all of this area in here, which currently has millings on it. We're going to have the millings removed and the area planted in grass. So we're talking about a reduction in runoff because we're going, well, from either fallow ground or an old driveway to a grassed area. So this reduces the runoff coefficient and it increases the time of concentration. So when I first ran this, these were going to be detention basins. But the existing to propose, you didn't need them, so they became water quality basins, and they are sized just for the 1-inch storm.
And is this did you anticipate a maintenance plan for cleaning out this after certain year intervals?
Well, after this area has been worked, the first thing to do is clean out the basins and construct the basins. Again, it will be, it's not going to have a 4-bay or anything like that. It's just going to be a grass-lined basin that would be, if we don't get to build it before it accumulates some sediment, they would have to go in there and just remove the sediment. I don't think in the 1 to 3 years that this thing may exist that it's going to have a significant amount of sediment accumulating in it, at which time would be removed.
But then you'll have you're building and then, 5 years later and so on.
Well, when the building goes in, to meet the water quality standards, we are gonna have to have underground mechanical treatment. There will be sufficient amount of impervious area, either building or parking, that this basin or any basin that we have here will not be sufficient. One of our problems is it's a relatively flat site, and we're not far above the wetlands down in here. So we can't have a deep basin or a large basin, so we're gonna have to go with a mechanical treatment. Or that's what I'm thinking now as part of the design. And again, it will be more than likely located in this area since it is the low point of the site. And then as this pipe goes over to here, there's an existing riprap pad here that is the energy dissipator for a 30-inch pipe that goes from off our property to this area. So in here, so we will, with the mechanicals down here, we will again go into an existing riprap pad that is stabilized and rather than have any more disturbance in that area.
When you were doing testing for septic, did you also do any test pits for subsurface stormwater?
No, because again, we don't need detention. What we need is water quality, and that is, it's a mechanical system. We don't have any percolation out of the facilities. What we have, I mean, we did do testing.
Are you saying you're not detaining or storing any water for any duration?
Not as well, we will as far as a water quality, but not for detention, no. The conversion of the land use reduces the peak flow in the proposed condition to the less than the existing, at least as part of phase one. I'm gonna have to look at that again when we have building and more parking on there, because that, yes, we may.
I only ask because, like you said, the elevations are close to the wetland, and so your water level below the surface
Actually,
could be challenging.
Surprisingly not. We have a test pit. Let me go to the other plan. We have a test pit right here. It's 93 inches deep, and we hit modeling at 78 inches. At this point, on 5, over in this area, right in here, there is 16 inches of, 24 inches of fill and topsoil, no water, redox at 54 inches. So we have some room in there to work with it. When we get up into this area, there was over 70 inches of fill. No water, no ledge, no modeling. So this, up in this area is best for the septic, but all of these areas are capable of accommodating either water quality and or water quality detention facilities, but because of the site, it will have to be underground. We don't get any credit for percolation, so it really doesn't matter where as long as we're not intercepting the groundwater. And primarily, we have enough room for that. That's 78 inches, 6 feet.
How deep are the millings that have to be removed?
We have not gone out there and looked at it. I'm guessing 1 to 3 inches.
If it changes that much in that shorter distance, depending on how long your subsurface system is gonna be, you may need, a couple of
Underdrains.
test pits, or
Yes.
a couple of test pits just to.
Yeah, it went from 78 to 54, but from 5 to 6, it's 5 to 6 being the location, 5 and 6. That is approximately the elevation difference of the ground. So it would lend to a relatively constant groundwater. As I said, we just did this today, but I would have presumed that it is very close to the wetlands down in here.
Yeah.
intent of these plans was to come up with a landscaping plan, both plants and time, that the commission was happy with in order to remediate the facilities, or the disturbance that was done, and for the construction of the road. And I guess my question to you, the commission, would be, does this meet those what you're looking for?
Mr. Carboni, wasn't there a fence along the road near the plan last meeting
Yes,
for phase one?
yes. It was removed.
Was there a reason why it was removed? We
The-
all really liked the fence.
What?
We all really liked the fence.
Snow removal.
Well, there's snow plowing problems, yes, but the owner of the property feels that his staff will not drive on an area that has established grass, and it was really a redundant facility that he didn't want to have there.
Where was the fence gonna be?
We had originally proposed it on the north side of the driveway to, along this area in here, to prevent people from driving onto or using this as a parking area. Mr. O'Keefe felt that this, being a grassed area, his employees are not going to drive onto it, and he's not going to allow anybody to park there.
Can I just add a comment to that too? So it's going to be herbaceous, but it isn't going to be grass like a lawn. It's going to be more of a meadow. So it's not going to be mowed, on a regular basis and kept short. It's not going to be the kind of thing that somebody would think they could go and drive on.
Actually, we're proposing only to mow it once a year in the fall. Should any birds want to nest or ground nesting, you wouldn't want to mow it in the spring, so we're proposing just to mow it once a year in the fall.
Maybe some boulders, if there's not gonna be a fence.
Yeah, I thought one of our main points was to put some type of barrier there on the other side of that road, on the other side of that driveway that we talked about. Right, am I right? Am I remembering correctly?
I think so.
If that's what the commission requires as part of the plan, then we will add it back in.
Are we talking about a phase 2 fence or a phase 1 fence?
Phase one.
Phase one fence.
And Mr. Linus, do you feel like phase one is, the planting plan here is as robust as it needs to be, in your professional opinion?
I'm not sure what you mean by robust.
You
It's
think that
not-
there's enough stuff going in there?
Well, it's a seed mix, so it's not going to be a
I think
woodland
you're talking about up there.
that we're showing in this phase 2.
Are you speaking phase 2 or phase 1?
Phase one.
Yeah, so it's a seed mix to create a meadow, basically.
Are you talking about south of the driveway?
Yes.
South of the driveway.
Oh, the strip? Well, we're constrained by the width of it. And I'm not really sure, without crowding it, that we can put any more, anything above that line of plants that I'm showing. There are a couple of wider areas, but then you're getting a little bit too close to the driveway, and I'm concerned about damage to the trees. I mean, where you see the larger trees coming up and touching or overlapping onto the driveway, that's just the crown.
Understood.
I'm trying to keep the stems and trunks of the plants as far away from the edge of the driveway as possible so they don't get damaged in the winter, especially. So, yeah, I think it's about as robust as it could be,
Thank
given
you.
the,
Appreciate the answer.
yeah, thank you.
Scott had a question. Are you good without any maintenance plan for the water quality basin?
No, I think that there should be one. It's not hard to do. They can put that on the plan, so they can comment about that, but I would think that would be pretty easy to put on the plan.
You're talking about both of them, right?
phase one, just the small one.
Well, phase one includes both of them,
So just,
because phase two, the second one disappears.
yeah, right.
So we need some kind of maintenance plan just because phase two may not
It
happen.
could be for both.
Right.
Scott, your bond estimate, does that include anything for the phase two plantings?
No. The bond estimate is really the bond estimate is just the stabilization and restoration of the disturbed area. There's minimal plantings in that bond. It's not meant to be a performance.
Can we bond for the phase two plantings? Seeing
I
that's part
think-
of the restoration
As
in
a
phase two.
wetlands commission for remediation, you typically don't bond for that. And we kind of started off years ago doing that, and then it seemed counterproductive because we were chasing after people to come in and resolve a violation. And we discovered that it was, and then to put a bond on top of that was kind of problematic. We kind of learned that it was better leverage to just use the citation program and say, look, if you don't do your remediation in a timely fashion or what you're supposed to do, then you get the citation and the fine and the lien that goes with that. This is an interesting issue because they've got this second phase and you have whatever you guys decide, 2-3 years. At the end of that time, then the leverage is to the citation and the fine. The only other thing that can be done would be a performance bond that would assure that the work would get done.
I just would hate to have to come back here again in 3 years.
Yep.
And obviously, if we get the money sitting, then it's easier for them to justify, hey, we'll just do it and get our money back.
Right.
It's
So
free versus fighting for it.
So as part of planning and zoning requirement and inland wetlands for development, the statutes only allow you to do site stabilization and restoration.
Restoration.
I think you have the flexibility to do a performance bond for remediation, if you so chose.
Okay.
So
But we do have the citation option
You
if
have
the
the
restoration has
citation
not been
option as
completed,
well.
right?
And then the other question is we went over planting of the phase two, well, it's the phase, let's just say the northern detention water quality basin. And I understand why,
That's phase one.
okay, phase one basin in the phase two area. And it seemed like we decided we didn't want to plant it, but I don't understand why we wouldn't plant it.
It won't be
Well,
there.
if phase two doesn't happen, it's still there,
Phase-
correct?
He's right. If
That was
phase
my
two-
point, is
Yeah.
that,
If phase two happens, you're right, that the basin will be there and it will be functional.
The
I
phase
mean,
of
if-
the landscaping plan.
That's
Yes.
correct. That
This
basin will
area
stay.
right in here.
Yeah, that's what I would, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want to see it planted and then have to be ripped out, but if you're not gonna build the building in 3 years, then,
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is a good point, that the water quality. basin
Phase
should be fine.
three, if it happened, then they wouldn't need.
yeah, 2.5,
2A.
2A, or 2B.
Normally, and I'm not saying I need to see it, but I would want to see, like you did the cross-section of the driveway, some better details on the basins themselves.
Yes,
Cross-section,
yes.
outlets, like, see
That
what's going on.
is contained in the stormwater management report, but it would have to be added to these plans, you're right. I mean, the
Yeah.
outlet structures are called for in the report, but they will have to be shown on this plan.
I had commented about that.
Yes.
That they were just referred to in the report, in the engineering report. But these plans are not of that detail that we're used to getting, so I had asked for that.
I'm trying to get a landscaping plan, phase 1, 2, 2B, that is satisfactory to the commission at this point, and satisfying the violation.
I don't have any comments.
Would you be allowed to put it under, I mean, we're talking about that same area that's just gonna be planted in grass to the east of number 2 detention basin.
In this area.
Yeah, up to the east of that, outside the basin. Are you allowed by P&Z's rules to build in that area, even if it's a detention area?
As long as it's underground septic or detention, yes.
Okay.
Section 9.9.1. I looked
Could
it
you
up.
be more specific, please?
Hey,
Yeah, that was added recently.
Recently,
Okay,
yes.
all right, that clarifies my question then. Okay. So the cross-sections of the rain gardens and the details will be
Water quality. basically, not
water
really.
quality.
Whatever, it's all, they work the same.
Okay, will be forthcoming to Scott.
Yes, yes. Now,
When?
what?
When?
I have to ask. Again, what we're talking about is primarily grass areas, certainly grass on the bottom, and some low shrubs along the banks of this thing. This is a depression, there's no berm in here. So we will add something in there in a cross-section, and the details of the outlet structures.
And that's where I start to get a little,
Yeah, because that's not your job.
yeah, like I can finalize drainage kind of thing, but when you get into plantings, I don't like to be deciding what plants they should or should not be putting in there. I don't see where that's money.
Well, I think it's what plants they want, and that the owner wants and what will survive in that area. Again, that's a large fill area, so I don't know how sterile that fill is.
Hmm.
Which means that it could be full of invasives.
No,
No?
I don't think that's what he's talking about.
No?
Sterile.
I'm confused.
Fill with what?
Invasives, I think of sterile as having no invasives.
I
Dirty
don't
dirt?
think you're gonna get
Dirty
very
dirt,
many
yes.
at that
No,
depth.
that's dirty dirt, not invasives, dirty dirt as in contamination.
Oh,
Material.
okay.
And lack of nutrients, too.
Sterile, yeah.
All right, so I guess the question is, if Scott's not happy with the concept of having to approve plantings and that kind of thing, we need to leave this and ask them to come in with more details. Or we just grass it just like we're doing the other one.
What if I were to select a restoration seed mix for a wetter site, and that would have a palette of only native plants in it, and some appropriate low native shrubs for the side slopes, which aren't going to be as wet, but those shrubs will still have to tolerate some fluctuating moisture conditions. And I can tell you that they will be selected from the offerings that you can get at the New England wetland plants. So they're all native, locally sourced in the New England region. In my experience, they've been acceptable to all wetlands commissions that I've worked with.
Does this have a name,
What?
the seed mix that you're recommending?
Well, there is a wet mix, a New England Restoration wet mix, but they have different mixes. They have some for side slopes, some for the bottom. It depends on what Mr. Carboni tells me the wetness at the bottom is going to be. Is it going to stay wet? Is it going to dry down? So the species will be different. If you have a situation where it's ponded with several inches of water for a few days after a rain event, that's different than if you have the water percolating very quickly and then, you know, it comes in, it comes up and then drops. So that's something that I'll have to find out, and then we'll select the seed mix accordingly, because there's a lot of different seed mixes and it's quite specialized depending on the hydrology of the basin.
I would recommend a 5 to 8 foot spacing of shrubs along the slopes. This is
Yeah, I
4
would
feet.
definitely, I
top
would
to
agree
bottom.
with that, but I think on the bottom,
Yeah, at the
not
bottom
so
you can
much,
use
I
the
think-
seed mix, yeah, yeah, I agree.
but we would still, typically, I would still spread a seed mix
Mhm.
under the shrubs, because
Yep.
otherwise, what are you gonna do? You're gonna mulch it, and it's,
Yeah, no, it
It's
should be
not-
seeded too,
yeah,
absolutely.
because you want the soil staying,
Mhm.
to get, you want the plant coverage quickly. I mean, it's gonna take a few years for the shrubs to spread and the roots to get in and hold the soil, so you do have to have, you know, some quicker coverage on the side soils.
And what
As
are
I
we
said,
talking, 1 gallon, 2 gallon?
Generally
Well-
speaking, the New England wetland plants are conservation size plants, and they're by size of the plant rather than
Right.
number. So they're 2 to 3 feet or 3 to 4 feet. Some species are 4 to 6 feet, but those probably wouldn't be the species that I'd recommend. I mean, I can get this to you by the beginning of next week, if that's acceptable.
well, as I said,
How you want to do it.
well, we just did the testing today, and we have not done percolation tests there, so I can't tell you how long the water will be standing in these basins until we know that. And since they are temporary basins, we're not gonna put an under-drain system in it. We may wick parts of it down to the underlying soils, but not an under-drain system as such.
I mean, if you're anticipating that you're just gonna keep it dry and not be a wet basin, then you can go with that assumption.
Well, right, that's what we want to have.
Right,
But
right,
it's
right.
still, is it gonna take, immediately after a storm, is it gonna take 2 to 3 days? Apparently that makes a difference to
It
the
does.
plants.
With the seed mix, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it won't be the same seed mix that I'm recommending for the upper area.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to get back to, once we do the percolation test, I can get a better idea of that.
All right, so we're talking about submitting this to the office before the next meeting?
We will try. That's a week and,
It's 2 weeks from tonight.
Well,
that meeting is
Yeah,
2
that's
weeks
right.
yesterday.
What are you saying, you want it left on the agenda so you can see it,
Well,
or do you just
well-
want it submitted to the office?
Unless, well, if you're comfortable with it, we don't know what shrubs were you decide, what shrubs were you suggesting?
I can give you a few off the top of my head.
I mean, I'm okay with that. If
You're
she's
okay with
saying-
that?
Guys, you're good?
Yeah, she's saying all
No,
native,
he doesn't
Yeah.
mind.
they're all native, they're locally sourced, New England restoration wet mix, the shrubs 5 to 8 foot spacing
Okay, good.
along the slopes, and they range in height from 2 to 4 feet.
Is that-
Okay, that's fine then.
That's fine, and we will have the details
we
for the
be
engineering
done with
report.
it.
So I also need to know, it sounds like you're trying to put some closure on this, I also need to know, what did you guys decide about the fence along the driveway? You were talking about that, you need to resolve.
I thought we decided we wanted that back, right?
What kind of fence was that originally?
It was just
Thought
like
it
a
was
single
split
rail
rail.
or split rail or
Split
single
rail
rail
fence.
fence.
I think that the fence should be whatever, the phase 2 with the plantings, because I don't know, it seems like it's a little bit much to make them put a fence in if they're gonna be back in a year or two.
But they might not be back for 5.
And the point of the
Well-
fence is, when, if they're doing the planting of the building, then we don't, the fence, we don't need the fence.
Exactly, that's why put it in now?
Because if they don't do the building.
Well, then you put it in with the plantings.
But that could be 3 years from now.
It's not, you know what I mean, I hate to see them, that's a big ticket, probably a big ticket item is the fence, but.
Well, I don't think it's that.
What do you do with it after, if you decide to do the building? The boulders, maybe you could use them in the planting plan or something. if
No,
you-
the whole idea was that if they're gonna do remediation, then if they don't do the building within 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
then they put
Then-
the plantings in,
The
I hear
fence
what you're
in.
saying, they put the fence in, and that prevents or discourages use of that area in the
Upland
future
review area goes
for
up to here. They're
storage
talking about here.
and things that happen this time.
But I thought that was the idea from the beginning.
That's their
That is the idea
For
from the
years from
beginning,
now.
right, it is, but there, you know, and I'm not really telling, you know, I'm not going into this whole phase thing, that's for you guys to decide what or if you want to even get involved in that, that's up to you.
Was that something that we address now, or do we address after deliberations?
Are you asking, is that a statement, general
Are we,
statement?
is this something that we decide now, or we have to decide deliberations, what our condition will be?
I don't know.
I think that if, you know, you could be talking deliberation, but I think that if you guys have concerns or issues about the phasing, you should be discussing that now so that they can provide their input.
My concern is that the fence, we discussed the fence, it was put in right from when the road went in to discourage people from going into, whether it be phase 1, phase 2, or phase 17, people from migrating off that road somehow. So it is my contention that that should be in with the road, but that is one thing.
What if the north side of the road was, could it be curbed up to a certain point before it was able to run into that other basin?
Be curbed? This is, yeah, it could. It's
You want to
just
do a
that
fence? I'm just saying, I'm trying to
Yeah, no, I mean,
get
obviously.
balance in
it
between.
curbed.
Trailer truck's gonna go right over it.
Well,
Yeah.
I wasn't
But,
thinking trailer.
I mean,
truck.
this is a driveway from a building to another driveway. So this is not a high-traffic area. This would be someone who is really deliberately having to go onto a grassed area. I don't think the curb would be as big a deterrent as the split rail fence.
Okay, so.
Curb, you can mount a curb,
All right, sure.
split rail fence. can do
Or
something.
the boulders, I mean, would you rather do boulders at this point? I mean,
No, there are a large number of boulders on this site, and they're huge. But to get them, to have them access, we're gonna have to dig them out of the ground, which I think is gonna cause more disturbance than a split rail fence. And when they were doing the testing, they had to give up on one hole because the machine wasn't big, and it was a big Ackerman to get the boulders out.
that big.
It was huge.
3 foot by 3 foot, 4 foot, like something
But-
smaller.
But then you're gonna have to be imported.
It sounds like the best
So there's a fence.
scenario is split rail fence then.
Phase 1 or phase 2.
Don't ask me.
what's your
You're
opinion?
the commission, I gotta ask you.
I like phase one personally. In mine,
It was the
There's a
owner's
couple of
dec-
signs saying, restoration area, please stay out.
Those would be good on the split rail fence.
Was it originally voluntary of the owner to have the fence?
No, the fence was there.
It was a proposal.
It was a suggestion to this commission.
Or required to fence off grass areas so no one could drive in them? I mean,
It wasn't so no one could drive on it, it was so, the area is a big flat grass area in a non-residential zone. Meaning that it's very inviting for outside storage. So the thought was, put some plantings out there, which is their phase 2, which is going to prevent the use of it for that in the long term. And in the short term, the question was, how do you prevent the use of that? How do you enforce that? And the suggestion was a fence of type that could be easily put in and easily relocated.
Which I might add is pretty consistent with what we've been doing on most of our projects, right?
Yeah, and the only alternative,
Whether it be a split rail fence or boulder.
Or boulder.
Mhm.
Is there an area on the proposed building plan that would be conducive to a fence?
As a decorative facility, that would be about it. I mean, it would not serve a function, but I mean, obviously you could have a split rail fence on this side of the loading docks or down here. It could be reused, but it would be strictly ornamental. It wouldn't have any particular function. This whole area is surrounded by a chain link fence.
Let's move on and we'll talk about it when we actually make a decision.
Well,
What about timeframes? Do we want to talk about that now? Between the, if the building doesn't go up, and we want to see those phase 2 plantings go in?
Well, first of all, we should probably talk phase 1 plantings and when they should be going. And if they should be in by a certain time. Whether or not the driveway goes in is not as important as the plantings and the rain gardens. I mean, the water quality.
I think,
Well, the millings have to come out first, right?
Yes, the millings have to come out first. So I would consider the millings and the plantings have to be done within a certain amount of time. And the driveway, I don't know.
What's your timeframe on that?
Do we have to go to planning and zoning?
you have to go to planning zone, that's correct.
So it's gonna be a fall thing.
Yes, by the time we get through with all the commissions, certainly. Can we do plantings in the fall?
Oh, definitely. That's
Yeah,
time of
fall,
year.
fall's the better time to do it anyway.
So I mean, if we get a conclusion from this commission, we're talking about most likely submitting in July, hearings in August, yeah, so we'd be talking about this fall before we could do anything.
Done by November.
Yeah, it should have to be by then, because after that, you can't really plant
There you go.
successfully.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so that's the first one.
I would say 4 years for the second phase.
was there a proposed timeframe that you had in mind, Mr. Carbone?
What would you expect for,
I'm planning on the design of the building essentially to begin right away. What I would like to avoid is in the middle of that process to have an edict that says we have to now plant this thing. And so the more time.
I think the edict would be that if you don't start,
submit a plan to this commission?
if you don't, start the development of that building, right, then the planting needs to begin. That doesn't mean that you have to be laying brick, right?
What about if we have plans submitted to this commission by the fall of 2020?
It's fine with
That's,
me.
That sounds good.
That sounds,
that's sooner than what we,
that sounds perfect.
I like your idea.
Yeah, but I mean, we also have to put language that if,
This building is important to us.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't want to rush it. At the same time, I'm not looking to drag
But-
my feet, but if you give me more leeway, then that just avoids another encounter.
3 years would be 2021.
how long, let's say they submit plans, they get them approved, everything's good, we love it, everything's great, and then they got 5 years to build the building.
So,
So then we're gonna sit
Then
there
a
5
5-year
years, and then they decide, at the end,
Right, and a 5-year extension.
well, 4 years, and then a 5 years, and then the economy tanks, and then we're sitting there.
And nothing changes, we're
And,
back to
and
phase 1.
we're still here, we have nothing, except for a grassy area,
Well,
which
the
is
next
still bad.
generation will pick it up.
I'm saying, can we put a thing that they actually have to have building construction started in 5 years or 7 years, something that's a drop dead date, so that if it just drags on,
Right, they have to have the construction of the building has to be underway by a certain period of time.
Or those plantings have to go
or those plantings have to go in.
in. Okay.
So what's a reasonable time? You should kind of.
4 years?
Well, they just said two, well,
Well, that's
2021.
application, and we give
2022.
another 2 or 3 after that so it's 2 phases. One, they have to apply in by 2020,
this is too
and then 7 years later, they have to be constructing. Or 5 years later, they have to be constructing. No?
You don't want to string it out that.
Yeah.
Too complicated?
You're
Okay.
committing for that amount of time, Jim?
He
Well,
must be an engineer.
I'm just thinking, you know.
He must be an engineer.
I don't even want to say what's happened to me in the past, but.
Plan submitted by 2021, under construction by 2023?
I love it.
You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
You okay with that? Town okay with that?
I don't have any comment.
Okay. Anything else from the
Uh,
commission?
I gather from
So
this
just-
discussion,
Can you just say that one more time so I can write
I
it?
know, right?
Phase 1,
By
being-
November 20,
no,
2008.
fall of 2018. Plans submitted to wetlands by the fall of 2021, and the building under construction by 2023.
2021, I thought they said 20.
Yeah, the original.
They went 3 and 5.
Plan.
They switched to 3 and 5.
Okay.
I think 3 is pretty generous, actually. Don't you?
The
Should we go 2?
remaining question is the fence part of Phase 1 or Phase 2?
I think
In my opinion, phase 1.
Phase 1.
Yeah.
I won't even vote because it doesn't matter.
Phase 1 is. Okay. Do you have anything else from the commission?
Okay, so for the record, the bond that's being recommended is $15,000. And the reason there's a bond is because there is development associated with.
Understood.
You know, obviously, I gotta do the wording on these things, this is another one of those.
Right.
Yep.
You okay, Mr. Carbone?
Yes.
Donna, would you be so kind as to read the exhibits for me, please?
So they're obviously, they deliberate after this, they were just.
Right.
I mean, discussion so far was just to make sure you were talking.
We're all on the
on
same-
page.
I believe we're all the same.
In the same library, at least.
Just so that, you're not, something is a surprise later on that you weren't here because we're talking, we deliberated on it and we came up with a condition and you had no clue.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not fair.
yeah, no, I think going through it now is most helpful. And we will try to get these plans submitted back to Scott as soon as possible.
Shall we read?
Thank you, sorry.
No, it's okay. Exhibit 1 was the town engineer comments by Scott Schatzline. Exhibit 2 were health department comments by Rich Jackson dated April 2nd. Exhibit 3 was a maps 4-sheet plan set by Spath Bajorklin, document dated November 20th, 2017. Revision date April 6th, 2018. Exhibit 4 was a detention report by Spath Bajorklin dated April 5th. Exhibit 5 was, is an 8.5 by 11 map by Bill Carboni. There was no date on it. Exhibit 6 were updated engineering comments by Scott Schatzline, document dated March 28th. Exhibit, revision date April 11th. Exhibit 7 was a request for continuation of review until May 9th by Bill Carboni, document dated April 16th. Exhibit 8, request to continue review until May 23rd by Bill Carboni, document dated April 19th. Exhibit 9 was a bond estimate form dated March 28th. Exhibit 10 was a stormwater management report by Spath Bajorklin dated March 21st, revision date March 21st, 2018, revision date June 4th, 2018. Exhibit 11 was a 4-sheet plan set titled Site Improvements for 4 Maple by Spath Bjorklund, document dated March 23rd, revision date June 6th. Exhibit 12 were updated town engineer comments by Scott Schatzline, document dated March 28th, revision date June 13th. And Exhibit 13 was a planting drawing by Cynthia Rabinowitz. The document was dated June 2nd.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll close the hearing, or the regular meeting, excuse me.
Yep.
Valley. Okay, so we're gonna move right along to our enforcement section. Notice
Well, we're
of,
gonna go, oh, yeah. sorry.
right? Notice of violation discussion, IWV 2014-19-225 Turkey Roost Road. Is it Bassani? Discussion of remediation plans. Did I say it right? Is it Bassani?
Yes, is that right?
Stand up. Good evening. Thanks for being so patient.
Sure. Scott, I have,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mine.
You could just, pull that out.
pull this one out?
Yeah.
It's gonna pop up.
You'd use the mouse there.
Did we get paperwork on this one? No, okay. Just make sure this is,
No, it was just, there was an email, but there was no.
right,
paper.
okay, we know that. Good, thank you.
So what we have here is, there was a notice of violation, there was a, they had come before your commission quite some time ago, and, there was a, resolution, in terms of using markers, and she has some, variations that she'd like to discuss with you, about that, so, floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Jean Bassani, 225 Turkey Roost Road. This is my home. I purchased the home in the condition it is today. Didn't change anything. The violation says that I changed something. The house was built, the land was cleared, and then I occupied it. 4 years ago, we went for a pool permit, and this violation came up unbeknownst to myself. We have a huge yard. There's no need to clear any more of it. The house is for sale, and I have accepted an offer on it, and I need to resolve this issue. My husband passed away in December, and I need to sell the home. So I had the surveyor come out, and the stakes, I took photos of the stakes that he placed showing what areas of grass I guess should be wetlands at this point. So do you have a large map? Can you kind of see where we're
Yeah,
at?
just one clarification. So the stake that's shown, he staked out the conservation easement, just so you know that it's not the wetlands, the wetlands are further back. But the original requirement was that the plantings and markers be put along the conservation easement. And so, yeah, it's just clarification that we're not talking wetlands. So, you sent the plan, do you have that?
I sent it to you.
Yeah, okay, you don't have it on this stick though?
I do not.
Okay,
Do you have it?
yeah, somewhere. Oh, you gotta you gotta put our thumb drive in.
Is this your stick?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
Why don't you, before you do that, why don't you show them the rest of the photos?
Pictures, yeah.
Did they go away?
She sent us the PDF, I sent you
She sent the pictures, I don't have,
I sent you the PDF too. There were two separate.
all right, look at it. There were two separate. Okay.
What's that?
I think you,
I sent you the,
I think it's in that, the folder up
The
top.
folder up top.
To the left. Up top, way up top.
There you
Right
go.
there, yeah.
So house is to the right, this is the pool house, and the wetlands are back here. Let me explain the row of Christmas trees. So this row of trees was planted by my father about a year after we moved in. And he just planted them along the line of the grass that was cleared, so creating a border. We didn't know there was any wetlands issue, or we didn't know that that property was over cleared at the time, if you will. So anyway, the first stake is right here. And then what I did was I just walked and took photos along, so that's what you'll see. So the second photo is the second stake right here, and the pool house is right here. Okay, so just to give you some perspective. So it's all this grassy area right here. So that's that same stake that you just saw close up. So we're just going along the backyard, and now we're gonna start to curve around to the right. Why is that popping up? Can I get rid of that? Just ignore it.
I think that this guy is actually leaning on the mouse over there by accident. There you go.
So now we're going, we passed, so there you saw 3 stakes. Now we are along the side of the house, and there are no stakes. So nothing was staked along the side of the house. And now we're curving around to the front of the house, and nothing was staked in this area. So this area seems fine. And continuing to the front of the house, and you start to see a pink stake. That's the 5th pink stake. And then that's that same stake. So here we had the 3 stakes in the back of the house, and now we have this in the front of the house. And you can see these 2 stakes, this one and this one. So it's just this area in the front. And that is, and that's the driveway. So do you want to go to the map, the overall map?
Yeah, let's hope we
then?
can find it.
I have maps if you want them. Would you prefer, does anybody want a map or no?
Well, let's
see
try
if it's
the,
here.
Try this first.
I'll do it.
Got that?
Yeah.
Let's try that first. So this is, what's,
225
There it is,
Turkey
225.
Roost.
Go down. Yep.
That's all I have. There's no maps on that. If you.
yeah,
look up-
so there was a bunch of photos, but there was an email before that had them, so you didn't
I
put
don't
that?
have it.
You don't have that, okay, so hold on, we may have,
You have to look it up when you're back.
I didn't find anything older.
I'm just trying to.
You know, if you have map copies, I'm sure the commission would like to see them. If you have
Yes.
some,
Here.
that would be
Here's
helpful.
one.
So you're saying you're looking in here, because it should still be in here.
No, I didn't. I
Jeff
never
and I
did.
can probably,
Yeah.
and Jason, if you want to pass that down the other side. I've got that.
Oh, you have that one?
I've got that one.
I just saw it. You just scroll past it. It's like 225, 30.
What's that?
Copy of the map. Yeah.
Try not to hit the microphone.
All right. So we all have paper copies here we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
So I'm gonna read you the
So this was, just so so I'm clear and the rest of the commission is clear, that this violation was addressed some time ago with a plan, right, to remediate, and this is not wetlands.
No, it wasn't. Here's your determination letter. It said that, you met, please be advised, that you met 6/11/14. The commission made a determination that the violation can be resolved through, at that point, you were using agent approval, so you're asking for an administrative approval. The commission also determined that consideration for doing the meeting, only the portion of the upland review area needs to be restored is the portion that also lies within the limits of the conservation easement. So the portion, so from the conservation easement back, you want it to be restored. Accordingly, please submit an application for administrative approval by a landscape architect or the appropriate professional showing restoration plantings, variety, sizes, spacing, as discussed, measures for control and prevention of invasive species, installation of regulated area markers obtained from the department at angle points along the easement line, sedimentation, road no measures, and some form of barrier or physical demarcation such as fencing, boulders, stone wall, hedge, plantings, etc. So that letter went out, and we never got the application for the agent approval. As things happen, she's at a point now where she really needs it to happen. We hadn't caught up with the fact that we didn't process it. We're making a lot of headway at this point. We are catching up with a lot of them, but I guess what happened with her was it came to the point where she's looking, she has a buyer for the property, and therefore it's time is of the essence. So she came in with a desire to get that done. We talked about, well, first thing you have to do is you got to get the conservation easement marked out so that you actually know where it is in the field as opposed to just on paper. So that's what you did. And now it's come down to a discussion about what you need to plant in there for a remediation.
And those photos that we looked at in this area, in this map, between the markers and those pines is conservation easement.
It's
all the way around.
Yeah, all the way around. It's grass. So if you want to just slide that down to me for a minute. The plan that she had done here shows that there will be some boulders in the back of the house placed along the conservation easement, and that the existing lawn to be abandoned and allowed to transition to meadow. And my interpretation of the letter was that you wanted plantings in there. You didn't want a lawn, you wanted plantings. So that's where we got into a discussion, and she wanted to come before you to discuss that, because she just wanted to have the plan that was prepared here with the lawn just left as it is. I mean, the determination letter says that you're looking for restoration plantings, variety, sizes, spacing, etc. So that's why she's here.
The pine trees that we see in the pictures, are they planted along the edge of the wetlands, or are they somewhere in between the line of the conservation easement and the wetlands?
Scott, can you answer
They're
that?
in between,
They're in between.
yeah.
They're designated by the tree line, I'm assuming?
No.
Yeah, if you look on the
There's no way.
plan there, you'll see there's 3 or 4 areas where
No?
the
The tree line is
boulders are in
before
front of where the
it's all
trees are.
cleared.
Yeah. Oh, this is an old map? Oh, this isn't new.
That tree line is not accurate to current conditions.
So,
No?
well, this area here, this area here, this area here is where it needs plantings,
Okay.
where it's been cleared. This area here is okay, this tree line is not there. My recollection was this area here was not a problem. It was around the back.
Where the conservation, that's the conservation.
Yeah, this
Well,
area,
this is a conservation easement too.
But that's
right,
in
but
the
my,
tree,
I believe this
That's
is
not what the
correct
trees are.
here. It's, this was not an encroachment.
Mm,
That's the
This back
backyard,
here
right?
was the encroachment.
right.
That you're approaching the side yard, I can bring you, that's,
Hold on.
that's the back, yeah, that's the back.
How far is it from the stakes to the trees? 30 feet?
20 to 30 feet,
Okay, so that's,
See, they're pretty close.
That's about
It's
what
supposed
it
to be
is.
50.
and then it tapers, it's like a triangle, it tapers to, you know, maybe 50 feet each way, maybe more.
Are those spruce trees?
2014.
Are they spruce
This
trees?
now.
Okay, that's it, but they're white pine.
No,
White
no,
pine.
those are not.
You said they've been there for, you said you got your father planted those,
They were
right after
this
you bought the
this
house,
big,
right? Yeah.
13 years, yeah.
So they stuck around. So they must have the white pine, right?
Right.
They stuck
That-
around that long?
Maybe a lot, lot bigger than that.
Yeah, no, I understand.
so it says, split rail fence or boulders, what are you planning on doing?
Well, I'm doing whatever the commission would like me to do, but also I have to consult with my buyer and see what they would prefer as well.
See, this wooded area is there.
Mm,
Here's the trees,
mhm,
and this is the conservation area, so you can see that these are the
Mhm,
areas,
mhm.
which were further refined by this survey that was done, was cleaned up a little bit.
Nancy? Thank you. Maria?
Sorry for that, I thought we had the thing stick to it.
What's it?
So here are the trees, here's the conservation line here,
And this is
And
just
you
from
can
your
see the-
GIS?
yes.
Okay, so.
And he's saying that this
so
is more refined because that's the
That's,
survey.
that's the survey, so things.
So
are-
that's, so it's a little tighter,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
And then here
Were
are
you
all
here
the
when
trees
the original
over here,
was
so
done?
you can see they're not.
I think so.
conservation.
The here?
I don't remember.
When was that?
4 years ago.
No, that wasn't, he might have been.
No, I think that, it was just me and you were here. I think I
Yeah.
had just started.
If you don't mind that, could I address the commission for just a minute? I am actually the significant other of the man that developed this property, okay? So I was involved.
Can you
from the
just state your name for the
Sure,
record, please?
it's Diane Camella. And my significant other, Al Cortina, is the one that developed this whole entire piece on Turkey Roost Road. Everything that was done, that you see with exception to those trees that were planted, is exactly the way that the town and the inland wetlands asked us to develop it, right down to the fact that you asked us to put in a bridge over the wetlands, and it had to be done within exactly 2 months, so we didn't interrupt the gestation period of the frogs. But what is there is exactly what you guys asked us to do from the very beginning. We cleared nothing else.
Yeah, that's not true, that's not.
Well, I think, listen to me, I think the problem, the issue that we're running into here is part of this plan shows that there was a conservation easement that had foliage in it, and it clearly does not now.
Foliage.
So I don't know when it happened or how it happened,
I get-
and
I
the
get
problem is, with conservation easement, we don't really have a lot of wiggle room to change around, you know what I mean? It's deeded, right?
So I guess the question I have is if there was a problem, how did we get a CO on that house in the very beginning? That would be
When
my
was that?
question. 2004.
Yeah, and again, everybody thinks that a CO is like the end of everything. And a CO is a document that allows you to occupy a building.
I get that.
It doesn't say that you comply in every way with the town. The town has all different agencies, has all different commissions. And apparently, I think what happened here is the trees went in probably thinking that it was the conservation easement, because the conservation easement is just a line on a piece of paper. And unless it's staked out in the field like you just did, you don't really know where it is. So I'm gonna guess that probably what happened was, somebody looked at the plan and kind of guesstimated where the line was, put the trees in, and then you find out afterward that they weren't put in the right place. Clearly weren't put in the right place, because the conservation easement is now marked out, and you just look at the picture and you can see that the trees are not on the conservation easement line. That's not something that changes. So, whatever reason, for whatever reason, either they were put knowingly back further, or I'm gonna guess that they were put in, because they almost follow the same line, they're just further back. I'm gonna guess that where the conservation easement was.
So it looks to me like there's just one real area that there's a problem. Two?
Where the boulders are.
Yeah,
Well,
the
actually,
side
there's
yard
three,
and the rear
the side yard and the rear yard, where the proposed boulders are.
Up here
On
is
the
what you're
plan.
saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's only 10 feet wide, maybe 15 feet wide. Well, not even, 10, 12 feet wide, so to me, it's not that big a deal. I don't know, I would suggest that they do the split railed fence in this one area, and maybe in the other area as well, and then they put a few trees in there and let the grass grow.
Well, here, the issue is that that's exactly what we had planned on when we
I
went through this the
understand
last
that.
time, and unfortunately, it just never came.
Oh, I understand that,
Yeah.
that's just trying to move the ball.
I understood.
question, how tall are the existing spruce trees that are out there? About?
I would say they're at least 12 to 14 feet high.
I was hoping to be able to move some of them and just move them
Yeah,
around.
we already talked about that.
Yeah, and kind of eliminate the soldier
Because
course,
it's nice.
or move the soldier course, but that's not gonna happen. Because as long as they exist that way, it still makes it look like that's the edge of the easement.
Yeah.
And that can be a further problem in the future. So we don't wanna keep seeing the same problems happen to other people.
No, because it's very easy that the new buyers will be before us with a violation
Mhm.
if they're using the conservation easement. And
Mm.
want to try to avoid that in the future, so I think identifying it with some kind of split rail fencing, especially in an area like this where and there's no mowing beyond it, it is a deeded land restriction. And there's not much more we can do about it. It's an instrument that was put in place years ago.
So it looks like she's proposing some sort of barrier, whether it be the boulders or the split rail fence, and I think it's fair to say that the people that she's in contract with, one of the two with the markers, but.
I don't like the boulder idea.
No good.
I think split rail fence is the way it's gotta be.
And I think there should be
Boulders
some
are-
plantings too, because split rail's too easy to
It's
take
not
down.
gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Okay. The trees themselves are not an issue, that they're planted in the conservation easement?
Mhm.
Well, I mean, they're there, I mean, usually, if there's trees in a conservation easement, usually you don't make them take them out, you might, you could take the approach that they're in a soldier course and ask for a couple to be removed so that they're not in a soldier course anymore, that would make it look more natural and be less likely for someone to think that that is establishing some line of demarcation.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
if there was
Well,
double
with the
breaks in
barrier
it.
in there now, if a barrier is going in there, then that will kind of, and the
Yeah,
marker
that's what
shows
I
regulated
thought it'd be
area.
kind of a shame to take trees out.
No, yeah, the barrier.
well, how
that's
about if
supposed to be
they
in
could be moved? I mean, there are people
Uh,
that,
it's
in
too
Twombly, I
expensive
know
to-
moves is
I don't
huge
think that's
trees.
feasible.
Yeah, but you're gonna go in there and want
The
to
cost of
destroy.
moving
Yeah, I know.
the cost of moving those trees would be
And
pretty
you're gonna
hefty.
tear it all up, though.
Yeah, and I was just
Yeah.
gonna say,
Yeah.
you also have to bring a piece of heavy equipment in, and there's
Yeah.
a septic system
true.
and everything else back there, so.
Just trying to save the trees, that's all, but
I don't know.
you're right, it would be more of a
There's one, I mean, that first stake, that grass isn't growing. There's something dead, I mean, there's something in that soil that's not growing anything right now. It looks like sand. So that's gonna be a problem, because you said to let it grow naturally into a meadow or whatever after you put up the split rail fence. It looks
This right
like,
here?
yeah, it looks like it's dead.
Well, I
Like,
mean, you know. So, again, the reason, I think the main reason was to talk about what are your expectations for plantings. Because if I handle, you know, it's kind of a mood issue handling it as an administrative, because she's in front of you right now, so it's
Right.
really being handled by the commission. I just need to know what you want there, so I can help her.
How about a split rail
Document.
fence and bushes intermittent, all the way across? Along with, I mean, intermittently, like right behind the fence, that would kind of augment the fence.
Are
Would
they,
that,
you the buyers?
Yeah,
we're the
Oh.
contract buyers there. We would not prefer the boulder fence.
I mean, would it be possible to just plant more trees?
We were hoping to also
Yeah.
perhaps move the trees because we thought it would look fairly odd if you put a fence in front of a row of trees.
Well, our,
Agree.
But
The
I
only
say
problem is
odd,
your
I
term.
know you.
can I,
I think
That's
that's
true.
right.
I mean, I think what we're talking about here is the fence and then plantings behind the fence, in between the fence and the trees to fill it in, so that it's not accessible, not mowable, and it's, you know, it fills in back, the conservation easement is on the deed, so that has to be filled back in. So, and there'll be, on that split rail fence, would be requiring markers showing that it's a restricted area.
Because the other issue is, like Gene had said, is it's a triangle, it's not a straight line. Now, I personally would like to keep as much yard as I can.
I completely understand,
Not
but
to-
unfortunately,
I'd like to- Sorry.
unfortunately with that deeded property there,
It's a land restriction where it's a legal instrument, and
We can't
it
change
has to be in certain condition, right? Say natural. So a split rail fence, whether there's plantings behind it or not, it's gonna be left alone. So you're gonna either look at, you know, grass going to old field, transitioning, you know, to shrubby, to eventually trees, or you plant some trees and shrubs behind the split rail fence. Either way, it's not gonna be usable space. You know, you walk in it or whatever, but I mean, you can't mow it and actively use it that way.
Yeah, this is an issue that's coming up more and more when people have a buyer, because, you know, I always try to explain that if they're before the commission now, and if there's a desire to have it a certain way, now's the time to speak up, and then that's a civil issue or a private issue between you guys, who, you know, how you work that out. But that's a good point that you're raising, that if you just mark the conservation easement and you let it go back to Mother Nature, there's a transition period where you go through several years of it going through this and you don't quite know what you're getting. Other people want to address it by doing a landscaping plan so that you kind of control what you're gonna end up with. And it happens quicker. Obviously, there's probably a big difference in the cost of that. That's not our concern. That's, you know, for you guys to work out. I mean, so there'd be I guess what you need to find out is what is the minimum thing that the commission would be accepting from you to resolve the issue, and then we find out what is the maximum thing that you guys want to do, and then that's how you would work that out. So maybe that's what you should talk about. You know, what's the minimum thing, because that's what you want to do at this point, I think. What's the minimum amount of corrective work that you guys would accept, and then after you decide that, maybe you guys can talk about what you'd like to see there or have done, and then at least you know the two extremes, and then they can they can work that out among themselves, who's doing what. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say again, fence and 3 trees.
3 trees in each location?
No, I don't, this area is close enough where I think the split rail fence and not mowing the grass is gonna be good enough. I'm just, that one larger area.
3 trees in the whole area?
Yeah, it's only 60 feet, 60 by 30. So, you know,
Well,
they're fairly
considering
decent trees and.
the area that used to be the conservation, I mean, the area that is the conservation area probably used to be heavily wooded,
Sure,
in which case it was a lot more solid than 3 trees.
probably.
I would like to see them not have to do anything that requires like equipment to come in, because the grass is established in the yard. Hand dug, like, put about like 1 pot per 50 square feet, or 60 square feet of, you know, wetland plants that'll grow up in front. It won't look so bad with the split rail fence, like everybody's saying. Because they have someone bring in a tree, they're gonna wanna bring in a machine, that means they're gonna tear up the grass, now they gotta repair everything, and it's gonna do more damage than any good, so. You know, I don't know what the area is, and you calculate it real quick, but whatever it is, you know, a 2-gallon pot for every 50 square feet.
With the split.
Move the split rail fence, yeah, definitely, that's.
But only in the areas that
What?
need to be put, not the.
Yeah, all
entire
behind,
line, right?
behind this, anywhere behind the split rail fence and the tree line. So that'll establish some kind of other growth, and it will not look like this lost lawn. They'll grow up. I'm not thinking of anything off the top of my head as far as a plant, but in all 3 areas, just anywhere, just based on the calculation, however way they wanna, you know, lay them out, as long as they get that density of number of plants.
Maybe some markers.
The markers, yeah, it's on.
The markers
are already part of the
split rail
plan.
fence like we,
I think we're all saying the same exact thing.
yeah. Jeff's making notations here.
So at a minimum, you want to see a split rail type fence with markers on it.
In that conservation easement area, that's as proposed.
Across the conservation easement line, and you'd rather see that in lieu of boulders. And behind the fence, you want to see plantings that can be of size that can be put in without heavy equipment, which would mean that they, well, before I go there, and the spacing of those plantings would be?
So, I was off the top of my head, like 1 every 50 square feet, which is probably like a 6 foot on center.
That'd be shrubs.
Yeah, anything, it could be anything as long as they can carry them by hand and dig the hole by hand.
Yeah, small.
If they want something that's gonna grow taller, they can plant that too, but it's up to them if they wanna just be able to wheelbarrow it over,
Yeah,
as long as it fits the bill as far as species.
basically work by hand and no machinery. is
Right, so
what-
you're just talking low plant, no tree.
Shrubs.
Shrubs.
It can be trees too if they find them
Yeah,
simply
it could be
enough.
a tree, if they
Well,
prefer.
we're gonna
tree.
get to the second part of it in just
Oh,
a
okay.
second.
Here's another
So,
part.
all right, I think I do have enough.
Yeah, I like that 6 foot on center or something.
All right, so I've got enough as far as the minimum, and then as far as the maximum, if they wanted, I mean, that's a lot more flexible, I could just deal with them on that. If they wanna do more plantings and that, put in trees or whatever else, I don't see where you guys wouldn't be acceptable to that, right? So, I think I have what I need to get it done. It's not it's just going to be administratively, unless you guys disagree, I'll get her to revise the plan administratively to show that minimum amount of stuff. And then if the buyers want to do more, I can work with them as well and come up with something. But it's got to be done just one time. It can't be.
Yeah.
Right, no
I get
fence.
it.
So
No
we're only
phases.
talking fence where there is no, where the boulders are, or are we talking fence along the whole thing?
The boulders are.
So it is
The whole,
zone.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, can I
Yeah,
ask
where
a
it's
not
question
in the
about
tree
that
line.
to the
Where it's
commission?
not in the tree
Can I
line.
ask a question about that? So there are no stakes along the side yard, and I feel confused about that. I think we talked about that. Like, so there's only 3 stakes in the back, staking out that
Yeah.
triangular area. But I showed you the pictures, there's no stakes, so where would we place the fence along the side yard?
You send
Because
that
it's
down
not-
again. So, I'm picturing that the need for the fence on the conservation easement would be what I'm calling the backyard, which is the north side of the house. So this whole north piece here, and the whole, east, I guess it is, yeah. Yes, east side along here, these 2 sides would need the fencing. On the south side, I don't think you need fencing, they haven't encroached there, but I think the markers would stay on the conservation easement would get markers for the whole thing.
Right.
The fencing would only be needed on the north and east sides.
But Scott, here's my
There's no stakes.
The only markers you can visibly see is
North is where the pool is?
Yeah, the north is behind the house,
Yes.
I think the fence would end up
going
behind the
towards
trees.
the wood line, or towards those
Yeah, the
trees.
fence needs to be all along the conservation line.
It's actually kind of on the map where they have the boulders, that's
He
the
did
north
mark it
side.
out because
This?
this is side is marked because that's how they came up with these areas.
So are you just
So
saying
if you're
put a
looking-
stake
My name is
here?
Brian Carter, I'm the prospective buyer.
And
I know you said
put a-
minimum
Yeah,
split
we
rail
talked about
fence.
that.
What if we wanted to plant trees on
So
the
where
Your
would the
question-
fence?
conservation
It
easement
goes
line
between the two.
without a fence?
All right, it's,
What if that's what we wanted to do? I understand that's maximum. I actually thought that would be more minimum, cost-wise not, but
You could plant behind the fence, but we would want the fence. Only, part of it is
Or you
because
could
we.
plant the trees in front of the fence.
and then take down the fence after.
No.
Well, Mike, actually, I was gonna ask that.
Isn't a tree at some point just gonna start growing over that said
If
fence
it's
and not
established,
more-
That's what.
If it's established and grown in, couldn't they come back in and say, hey, this area is now totally vegetated with heavy trees, the signs posts still stay, but can we ask to remove the fence if it's totally filled in with plant material? Like
I mean,
5
they
years
could always
from now.
they could always do that. I mean, the fence isn't usually what you do is you offer people options. You want the conservation area demarcated, number one, with markers, and you want something, a physical barrier along that line. And typically, what people do is they put in, one thing is, some people do boulders,
Some
depending
people
on
do
the
walls.
situation. Some people do a
Farm walls.
stone wall. I mean, that's the most preferred, but it's also the most atrociously expensive. But it looks great and it functions great. So a stone wall, bollards, fencing, we've seen sections of fencing with sections of soldier plantings. I mean, you've seen all different things that people propose, but the idea is a barrier that says, you don't maintain past here. Kids can play in it. You can go back there and look at birds or whatever you're doing in the backyard, but it's a conservation area that's meant to be left in a natural, undisturbed, non-maintained condition. And unless you have some kind of a physical barrier to that, what happens is people put their yard waste, they drag it back there, and there's all kinds of things happening, and it's not supposed to happen. So that's what the commission's goal is. They're trying to find a way so that they're discouraging that. Because they don't know, they're not always gonna be dealing with you or with you. It's just, it could be anybody over the years. It needs to have a look to it that's just gonna discourage them.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when I wasn't here for it, but when the project came in for a permit, I assume part of their plan was to say, well, we're gonna allow us to build this, and we're protecting a buffer to the wetlands if you allow us to build this.
Yeah, what we had in this case was we had their development plan, which quite frankly had a limit of development which was much tighter than what you're allowing. What you guys worked out, and I need to say this, is when the house was built, the yard was supposed to be a lot smaller. And the yard got built bigger. When this came before the commission the first time, they said, look, we'll work with you. They compromised, and they said, you only have to, it's in the letter that I read, you only have to restore to the limit of the conservation easement. They could say, you have to restore all the way back to where the limits were on your approved plan that you originally got. They could easily say that. They're very justified to say that. But what they're doing is they're working with you, and they're saying, that's okay, we'll let you encroach into that area as long, and we'll hold the conservation line, which is less restrictive. And, you know, it's a compromise. I think it's a win for everybody. But I thought I'd point that out.
So to your point, if you wanted to do a combination of split rail fence and soldier plantings, if that would be more agreeable with you, that's something that we could get along with too.
I think that their best interest is to do what's required so they can transfer to make the sale, and then you can come back and say, I wanna change it, you know.
Yeah,
We can't ask.
I would discourage that, because if you.
I don't realistically want to come back.
Right.
Right.
No, we don't need
Well, I
that.
guess, I mean, if he's planting.
And if you-
I guess that's really
They wanna come
negotiating,
back?
that's really negotiating to you
Scott,
two,
And if
as
you
to how
came
much it's gonna
back, you'd have
cost.
to come back with a full application.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
just stuff that you want.
Scott, if he's planting towards the house of the conservation easement, he doesn't need to come back, correct?
Yeah, if he goes in front.
Yeah, if you plant in your, I mean, if you do plantings in your yard that are on the house side of the conservation
there's no
easement, then, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, you could
Not-
plant
What
a
we're-
row of
what-
trees if it's to the inside anytime you want.
Yeah.
What we're saying is the minimum kind of stuff that we're gonna accept here. So, you know, once that's done, we're satisfied. If you wanted to add more plantings or anything like that, but you can't, the barrier that's going in there, the fence, it's gotta be there.
And the plantings and stuff are
plantings
really a one-shot deal. They're not like, 6 years from now, I think I'll put some more stuff in there kind of thing, It's really not supposed to.
Also, if we wanted to plant back there to control the road, we'd have to do it now.
You really need to do it
Or-
now.
Idea.
It's not a thing where you have that flexibility in the future. It's supposed to go back to a natural,
Untouched.
untouched thing. So that's why I'm saying now's the time to speak up. Because if you want to throw a couple of like blue spruce in there or something that are going to get big and take up a lot of the area eventually, then now's the time to put them in. And to think about that. It's not to say you can't come back in the future, you can. It's just that when you come back, it would be with an application.
Big process.
And it's a process, and it costs some money, and it takes time.
And it wouldn't be to shrink the conservation easement at all.
Yeah, we can't do anything about that, that's a given.
Can't do anything about it.
All right, so,
It's time.
So did you get all the answers you were looking for?
Scott, you're good with this?
Yeah, I'm good, so we could work it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you, good luck.
Come see me.
Come again anytime.
Adjournment, yeah.
Sorry.
no, we didn't finish page 1 yet. Okay,
Folder right there.
we have no application hearing determinations tonight. Moving on to other, the added 15 Owl Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Karuba.
All right, so,
How you doing?
hi.
How are you?
What one are we on now?
15 hours.
Karuba.
Oh, 15
You know,
How you doing?
And you got the email, okay.
Dennis Coquinos on behalf of Dwayne Karuba, the owner, Owen, John, and Nicola, Trumbull, Connecticut. Last name spelled Kokenos.
Yeah, sorry you had to sit here.
That's okay, that's all
I
right.
didn't think you were coming.
It was, I didn't really know if I should or not, I said I'm coming, I just
Yeah.
wanna just be
I mean,
here and just get it right, so. that's
Basically,
fine.
you got the,
They all have a
So-
copy of the letter.
yeah, so you see what they just want to replace the white spruce trees because they're having trouble getting them with,
Yeah, the owner tried to go to TLC, they were out, and they was referred to, what the other place, excuse me, it's, Planter's Choice. They didn't have any, so the best they could do was get them the 4 blue spruce, and then the 4 Norway spruce to replace instead of having the 4 white spruce. So, and the only issue, and I really wanted to come tonight, is because the commission put a deadline on this to get done by 6/23, and he could get the work started on Saturday, but wanted to make sure that the commission was okay with that change. Get them, start the work, because we're up against the end of the planting season, and if that wasn't acceptable, then he wanted to let the commission know why it's not done by 6/23, and then come now and ask for the extension, because we've got to get that spruce, which you can't put until the fall. So that's why I said I'm just gonna come and get the okay so the work can be started.
All right, with the tree change?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
so what'd you decide on, which one?
Good.
Or-
So we're gonna
Norway
do
and
4
then-
blue spruce,
Blue and Norway's.
4 Norway, instead of 8 white.
That's fine. Excellent.
That's good.
Thank you guys very
Wait.
much.
Thank you.
How long for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
No big deal. I was a last minute addition, I knew I was gonna be
Could have
late.
flew those other
Take
ones
care,
in.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
They should all be so good.
Okay. Deliberations. You want to do the letter first or deliberate first?
Doesn't really matter.
What letter?
The last one we did last time. 8 Maple Hill Drive. Let's deliberate.
Okay.
So you got the-
So, this is the portion where we direct Scott to propose a letter, whether we're not going to accept the plan or not accept the plan, and with what conditions, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to do that paragraph, that difficult paragraph that talks about remediation versus development. So I'll do that, I'll put that together. And,
You think?
and so, one of the things that I'm gonna need from you is, what's the timing? Now, bear in mind that we got into problems with the timing in the past, because what happens is, when you have a development like this, they've got 270 days to meet the conditions of the approval to lock in their development. And then they, in this case, it may not be as big a problem because they don't have a building that they're designing. They don't have, architecturals and all that stuff. But I just bear in mind that we've gotten into trouble because you guys have said that you want the remediation done within, 60 days. And they can't do it. They can't make it mobile.
They have to go to P and Z too, right?
They are going to P and Z. Yes.
So, fall?
Aye.
This is Rizio?
We're
They're going to
Rizio.
PNC for what?
They're going to P and Z because they're expanding their parking lot.
Problems with that. 'Cause
Yep.
She was,
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
I understand. So, I'm just talking about for realistic time frame. If everything goes smoothly and wonderfully in P and Z, they're not even gonna get P and Z stuff until, does P and Z meet once in the summer too?
No, they do not. They are.
They're full schedule.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're not even gonna see P and Z until the second meeting in July,
And-
right? Maybe.
Well, and plenty of zoning has there's a longer lead time to get actually in there
Yeah,
too.
they've changed.
So,
So
yeah, they're
They might not even see them till end of August, end of the summer?
end of summer.
Yeah.
Probably, that's likely then,
And it
right?
depends on how
Yes.
many times it gets.
So should we say,
Yes, and bad.
well, then we're in a situation where they can't plant.
Well, they can plant up till November something, right?
They
Let me
gotta
just-
remove
Let me
millings, they
just
gotta
say
pave.
that in this situation, this is kind of like some of the other ones we had, that it is a violation. But whether it's done this fall or next spring really isn't gonna matter.
Well, the problem is, if we don't give them a timeline, they may just drag their feet and keep going forever.
Right, that's true. I was gonna suggest that the remediation portion needs to be finished no later than spring of 2019.
Well, how about, no, wait, but the millings, everybody has decided the millings must go. That's P and Z and us, right? So if we put a deadline on the millings, because we know that has to go, and it has to go first.
Okay.
So if, and that's the biggest part of the violation.
I'm sorry to
Is it
interrupt you,
not?
can I stop you right there?
Sure,
Can we avoid a tiered approach anymore?
that was horrible.
That's what we're essentially gonna do now, we're gonna do a tiered approach.
Well, yeah.
That's where you're headed, right? A tiered approach, get the millings out by this date, and then get this done by this date. Can we just say work done by May 1st, 2019?
How about like next November, plantings, whatever?
Well, it's 6 months after P and Z approval. 'Cause that'll
Dude,
get
that
approved.
might put us directly in, February.
February.
And
We
that's-
don't know.
And that's not good, because if they don't go to P and Z, then you,
Right, that was.
Oh, I thought they did, I thought you said he had to get a P and Z approval.
well, they have to, but
To do the work,
But if
the
they
development.
don't,
May?
they haven't even
Next year's
submitted
up
to
to
them. If they
Well, that's
don't
spring, right?
submit,
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
But they can't do the, they
I
can't
think
build
that's
the
fair.
parking lot, which is part of the whole process of removing the millings from the parking lot at one time. You want them to disturb the site twice?
in this case, the parking lot they're doing that because they're spending all this money. They thought they'd get
Better
better
deal.
bang for their buck, but it's been a struggle, because
We
I
need them
don't-
to clean up the violation.
Well, that's why, excuse me, that's why I was suggesting, okay, let's give them a
I
drop
understand
dead
that,
date
but-
of July 30 or something like that, to get the millings out. And then,
Yeah, because we don't have a phased approach on the plan, so that they remove the millings, and is the site gonna remain unstable? Every rainstorm it's gonna
And
go?
remember, they put the shovel to the ground, they need a P and Z approval.
So they
They
have,
need a P and Z
so we
approval
can't
to
give them a
remove the
date.
buildings.
Well,
can't give
I
them a
would
date until we know when they can start, because our date would be nothing.
Well, I would say we say that they have until like May of next year, giving them all this time to get P and Z approval and allow for, if the work's not done until early part of next spring, they can do the plantings.
Yeah, I think, that, if you give them to next spring, then that's enough time.
Like
to
the end of May.
And then we'll see them again next spring. So my opinion would be May 1st, 2019, it's gotta be, work has to be complete. Right?
All of it?
No, you can't say all of it, because
The
they
remediation.
get an approval, they got 5 years to do their
The
development.
remediation work.
The remediation work, which you can define by the buffer plan.
The plantings and the
The
millings
removal
removal.
of the millings, the overseeding with the
Phase one.
conservation mix,
No,
and
this isn't the phase
and
plan.
the
This isn't
providing
that
of the
one.
buffer
Which
plan,
one are we talking
which
about?
means they have to build the
First four Maple
the
Drive?
detention basin.
Wait a minute, what are we talking
Oh,
about?
wait, we're on different
We're on
plans.
8 Maple.
Yeah, this is
Not
not.
four.
This is no
Maple.
detention basin.
8 Maple.
The rain
The
garden.
rain garden.
The
work.
rain garden,
It's
this
a
is the rain
detention
garden.
basin.
Yeah, but
Rain garden,
on one
detention
plan, it
basin.
really
This
is
is the one with,
detention
this is
basin,
the one where
on
he's
the
gonna
other
take
one it
out
really
2 of the
is.
parking
Yeah,
spaces for the rain garden,
Yeah.
which we don't think is gonna work
They
through
kept
P and
calling
Z.
it a rain garden, but it's a detention basin.
Yeah.
So
That has
remediation
stormwater.
work, meaning the millings removal and the plantings, and the plantings, this is, I think, is where you're going anyway, by May 1st. And then by statute, they have the 5 years to do the development anyway,
Yeah.
right? But does that put us in a tough spot? Does that destabilize the whole site by having them take off those millings?
If they take off the
Well, they
millings and
say-
they plant that they're gonna,
They do say that they're gonna
Put the
remove the
seed mix
millings and then loam and seed the remaining.
I'm gonna say the end of May.
Perfect. Very good.
They'll be back here next summer.
Then they
You know,
get a
worst
site
case
visit.
scenario, they come in and they say, we got our P and Z approval, we got this, we got that, we can't quite make the.
As long as we're still
And we
moving.
need an extension.
As long as we're still moving.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
what
so.
about this, I know this might be a little crazy, but what about because the P and Z approval kind of keeps them from doing their parking lot, right? What about everything that's outside the parking lot? They've got till next spring to remediate, so they wouldn't have to disturb, so they wouldn't go back and re-disturb that section.
Because part of the remediation is getting those millings out of there.
Milling.
They have to get P and Z approval to get those millings out
Oh,
of
do
there.
that too?
Yeah.
So then how can we put a time frame on it without knowing when they're gonna get through P and Z?
Well, that's why we're putting a
Because
longer time frame
that's-
on, because we
Right,
have
that's-
that, that's
give
why
them enough
we're
time
giving
to do
generous
So
enough.
that's enough time,
Oh, yeah.
May, then yeah, that's
Oh,
fine.
definitely.
Could we put a note on it, you know how we always do P and Z referrals? Can we put a note on it and say, we've given these people until May, would you please accelerate this process?
They're
Can't
gonna
do
go
that.
as fast as they want. It really isn't the commission, it's after the commission
Yes, yes.
grants the approval, then there's this period of time that they're putting to doing the revisions, a review of approval period. It's just, it's really hard to get a handle on. All right, let me just get the rest of the stuff here. So I got, you want the white pines eliminated and replaced with white spruce.
White spruce, Norway spruce, or
Blue spruce.
blue spruce,
Yeah.
depending on availability. How's that? That way we'll eliminate that.
Okay? You want a landscape architect to monitor during construction and certify complete when construction is ended. And I'm assuming you want your same 3-year monitoring period thereafter,
Yep.
okay? You want wetlands markers put at 50-foot intervals
And changes in,
and angle points. Blah, blah, blah. All right, and,
and removing 2 spaces, does that need to be put in?
you want them to remove.
Yeah, you suggested green in it because P and Z's not gonna let them pave up 2 spots and then just say, oh, we're not using it as parking.
Right, you want a landscaped island where they're taking the 2 spaces out.
Cause that way.
Is that a condition of our approval, though? That's,
Well, it's in your, it's in your upland review area, and it's, you know, to say landscape island just means that you want it green. When they go to P and Z, if they're P and Z, when there's an island in a parking lot like that, P and Z is gonna say, we want a tree in it, because when it snows, you're not gonna even know the island's there.
Right, that's true.
You know, so they'll typically
Some
ask
guy's
for a
gonna
tree.
take the island out, pave it for more
I gotta
parking.
send in a request.
All right,
illegally.
so you've determined the scheduled deadline for completion of the wetlands remediation, you told me that. Follow-up monitoring, we did, the removal of the 2 spaces in the 42. I'm gonna leave in, there's a comment about moving the emergency spillway and some data that they need to provide on the pond report that they gave me. Additional buffer plantings on the easterly side of the new parking lot, you said was okay with the landscape, the proposed landscape mix that they have, the upland landscape mix for grasses. That you didn't need buffer plantings at this point in time?
Are you thinking about the right application?
Yes, I'm thinking about 8 to the east of the
Oh, yeah, I know what
buffer
you're talking about,
area,
yeah.
you said
And
that
that
the
added
grasses
parking
were
area up on the
okay.
edge, on the other side of the ring.
And I think you came to that conclusion because they showed you that way back when it
It
was
was-
a meadow.
Right.
And it wasn't.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll put that in.
Yeah, show us the picture,
$18,000
it didn't look like a meadow.
bond, and that's all I had, unless someone wants to add something.
The herbicides, no herbicides in the rain garden was already on the
That's on
plan,
the
right? I
plan,
missed that
right.
one completely.
Yep.
That's okay.
Do we need reasons on it?
Yeah, yes, because it is a development.
Usually 1 and 3.
Is it, Lois, come on, you know 'em.
Usually it's 1 and 3, so.
Okay, reasons 1 and 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's our standard.
All right, I'll put something together and.
Excellent.
We'll go from
All
there.
right.
All right,
That's one.
4 Maple. 4 Maple Drive, O'Keefe. How would we like to ask our inland wetland agent to proceed? To draft a letter of approval with conditions. My condition would be that the fence go in at phase 1. I second that.
Yep.
What
Okay,
else?
so let me read what I got. Provide an O and M plan for monitoring of the water quality basins. Phase 1 grass area to be mowed only once in the fall, north of the driveway. Phase 1 to be done by November of 2018,
As agreed, right?
which is tight, but they could always come back.
The O and M plan, you said monitoring, it's for maintenance.
Yeah, I put O and M, operation and maintenance.
Yeah, and then you said to monitor?
I did?
Yeah.
No, plan for did I say, it says maintaining the water quality basis. Maybe I said
You said
monitor.
monitor.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, so phase 1, November 2018. Phase 2 plans submitted to the Inland Wetlands Commission by fall of 2021 and under construction by 2023. You want a fence put in as part of phase 1. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna take the requirement for area plan out, even though
I got a question about that. Let's say the fence costs as much as putting the plants. Couldn't they have the option? The phase 2 part?
if they wanna roll right into phase 2, absolutely.
I'm saying versus
they
the
can-
fence. If the guy really doesn't want the fence,
We want both.
both?
Yeah.
Because because if they got planted in 5 years down the road, they planted it?
Eventually.
Hmm?
Yeah, either the building and the fence or either the building
Or the
plantings
planting and the fence. Because the
Oh, I
fence
thought-
isn't, when the plants go in, the fence isn't coming out in phase 2. If
Oh,
they
I
don't
thought-
go to the
I
building,
thought the fence was there because the plants were because no plants is a deterrent.
no, if the the way I understood, the fence stays there
Yeah.
unless they build a building and change that
Yeah.
driveway.
Oh, the
Into
plants
that
coming
building
after and the
plan.
fence stays.
Because those plants would not be dense enough to really prevent people from.
For years.
This area was largely used as outside storage, there were boats out there, there was equipment out there, there was all kinds of parking and stuff.
But that
So-
stuff's all violation, right?
So that's
Well,
why,
that's the whole point.
that's the whole point. So that's why we're trying to prevent that in the
But,
future.
If it gets planted, then it discourages people from just doing that. It's very difficult to go around town and try to enforce all these things, if there's these big open, flat areas.
It's also a violation to cut down the trees and start using it as a storage area, or take the fence down later on afterwards.
That's
I mean,
true.
how much do we try to control everybody's behavior by, putting a fence first? That's my thought, but.
It's just a further deterrent,
Cost money.
It's a further deterrent. Like I said,
It was discussed at the earlier meeting, and I think the reason, really how you came up with the split rail or the post, even if they put a post in rail, I think that would be okay for you guys, right? The reason that was discussed in the earlier meeting was that it's easy to put in and it's easy to pull out and reuse somewhere.
Yeah.
As opposed to other types of fences where they get wrecked when you go to take them out, All right, so under technical, I had a bunch of things. I'll just leave in the wetland boundaries should be provided. The sketch for the soils report I'm talking about. The survey should include reference to the accuracy of the wetland depiction. More detailed information be provided about the prevention of invasive species. The commission needs to determine if there is a requirement for a monitoring program. I'm assuming that you want the same 3-year monitoring program for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you say monitoring, do you also get an annual report?
We have a standard comment that I think Denise was talking to you about maybe tweaking, but basically what it says is that they have to do a report once a year. And that's one of the things we're discussing is, what does that mean once a year? When should it be?
Yep.
We'll pin that down.
Yep.
And then, if there's any invasives that are in there, then the report needs to indicate that and how they're gonna treat that. Our goal is to get people to do it, because what's been happening is no one's doing it, and we don't realize it till we go to release the final, release,
Bond.
well, it's not, we don't have bonds
Oh,
on some
us-
of these, but
yeah.
this one we will. But, yeah, well, at the end, when we review it for acceptance of the final work, we realize they didn't do the intermittent
Monitoring.
reports, you know?
Yeah.
So we're trying to have a follow-up program. It's tough with the limited staff we have, but
Yeah.
we think we can do it.
Should be by the end of the year, so they capture the growing season and submit it. That's the way the Army Corps does theirs too.
So, the end of the year, November,
December,
okay.
submit the reports with what they've seen during the year.
End of the year,
But there needs to be language of, in other words, it can't go out in November or December when there's no leaves, you know, on
They have
the
to
plants.
inspect it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it has to be during the growing season that they're
Right, yes.
making their observations, but the report doesn't have to be turned in until the end of the year. Or you could make it November 30th, just to tighten it up, so.
Yeah, 'cause if you make it
Even October 30th,
they're gonna
because
go
by
out,
then-
they're gonna go out
I'll
November
make it
Right
31st.
before, yeah.
November
If there's
1st.
a
November
31st in November.
Yeah.
All right, so you gave me the timeline that's separate from the approval measures, or no.
February 29th.
Yeah, we did talk about that. So hold on a second.
Yes.
Yeah, so you said that you want it done by November 2018. All right, and you went with the fence for that one. In the wetland markers, did they show those on the plan?
I don't think they did.
No, I didn't see any.
It's hard to determine where to put them.
Well, the markers, I think, would just be along the.
Probably along the stone wall.
Yeah,
Okay, that sounds good.
or further.
That's fine. 50 feet's good.
We were supposed to have a public hearing tonight, too.
Yeah, that would've killed me.
No, this is the other.
Planting details they should add, the location, I had asked for the location of the water main, they told me that it skirts around the property line, I'm gonna suggest you take that one out. I've got a bunch of drainage comments on here, I'm gonna leave them all in about some technical stuff, that time of concentration and curve numbers and all that stuff. Bar scale needs to be corrected, siltation erosion control needs to be on the plans, details of the outlet for the water quality basin, and the detail of the outlet control structure needs to be on there, so leave that in. The fencing we talked about, the timing we talked about, and the bond was $15,000. Anything else you guys want to add?
Oh, let me see, Cynthia was talking about offering a wetter seed mix for the bottom basins, and restoration wet mix depending on the wetness of the basin. Now, I don't know how we deal with that.
Because
I
he
thought there
said
was-
you have to work on the,
He had to determine, he
Oh,
wasn't
I
sure how
left
wet it was
that,
gonna
I'm
be.
sorry, I left that out, that on the larger basin, you want all native, you want bushes put in that are all native,
Right,
locally sourced. You want New England restoration mix appropriately, appropriate to the water content.
right. And Jeff had mentioned that we.
5 to 8 foot spacing of shrubs along the slopes. Shrubs to be 2 to 4 feet in height.
Bingo. Got it all.
Anybody else? Reasons? 1 and 3?
Yeah, I don't normally, I wouldn't normally want to, like, approve or accept something that doesn't have any soil and erosion control on it. It's, this plan, it really ticked me off because there was nothing.
It was very,
It was terrible.
Getting it to
yeah.
It's terrible. I don't know if I got my point across to him, but I just didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I kind of laid into it beforehand about that too.
It's like you're
Bear-
taking advantage.
Bear in mind
Yeah.
that, I'm not sure why that was done, because they are submitting to P and Z, and it will be there for P and Z. It's gotta be part of the. And just so you guys know, that we've changed our policy, because we've gotten a lot of flack for the whole thing, and what we're doing now is, we are doing one review, and then it's going to the commission. They are going.
This is P and Z.
This is P and Z. It's going to be heard by the commission. They're gonna have their comments, and questions. And then it's gonna get revised once, and they're not approving it until it's done. That's not, whether that remains to be seen, but that's what's supposed to be happening.
And then if it's not done,
It's
Not
gonna,
approved.
they're gonna deny it?
No, they're not, they're gonna,
Wait?
they're gonna have them wait, they're gonna say.
Well,
come
they've
back.
got a limited time,
Yeah.
They
that's
do,
what
yeah.
you-
so they're gonna have to deny it.
Well, if it came to that, they would, yeah.
Or
Yeah,
the
okay.
applicants are gonna have to really toe the line.
So-
Extensions.
So it'll be interesting to see how that works out,
Yeah, well-
because they asked us in the past to do it just the opposite way, but then they got mad that it was taking too long to do it the opposite way. So I'll keep you posted.
Did you draft that letter on 425 Pepper?
Yes,
Yeah, we had
We
it
got
in
it.
email.
I read it. Everybody read it?
I did.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yep.
What do you do with it?
okay, so this one, everybody got the letter,
Yeah.
and it is a 6-page letter. And, we listed data that came in as far as the first page of the letter. We then go on to list the findings, the 2 findings that were highlighted for you that are there. It then goes to conditions to be addressed as soon as possible, but no later than 60 days from the date of approval. And that's the set of drawings that address the various items, the A2, T2 survey, addition of notation indicates there should be no outside storage of asphalt millings, mulch, salt, brine, fertilizers, etc. The addition of notation indicating that all disturbed areas between plantings shall be seeded overseeded with New England conservation mix. And the notation about the no outside washing of vehicles. The notation indicating about the monitoring reports once per year for 3 growing seasons. Filter fabric.
By who?
Once per year,
Should be by appropriate professional, right?
Right.
Yeah, appropriate professional.
We can't say that, because
I know,
that's,
it's extremely.
we have to say qualified. It depends what area
All right,
we're
well, tell
having
me-
them monitor.
Tell me what you want.
So what are we having them look at here? What are they gonna be monitoring? Soil and erosion controls, the plantings?
No, the monitoring reports typically were for the planters.
So it could be qualified landscape architect. You know, if it's plantings in a mitigation area, then you can have a qualified wetland scientist, but this is more
Okay.
uplands and stuff.
So you want me, I'll switch the.
That's my recommendation. I don't
That
want to speak
sounds
for
good.
everybody.
No, it sounds good.
Okay, so I'll switch that to a qualified landscape architect. And I think I'll
If they're
also,
licensed, are they not
for your
automatically
suggestion,
qualified?
I'll tweak this.
Right?
Yeah, but you don't want somebody, I'm a landscape architect, and
Well, you're not a landscape architect unless you're licensed, right?
I could walk in the office, say I'm a landscape architect. You could say I'm not. but-
Licensed landscape
Actually,
architect.
we do have people that have done that,
A
and then you go
Yeah, qualified, licensed.
So it should
Okay.
be, it should be licensed.
License is fine.
Licensed.
There you go.
Yep.
Knighted.
Mr. Tree Mover.
Because you don't want to battle about what makes them qualified.
Okay, and I'll put on there that once per year, and I'm gonna put on there by November 1st.
Okay.
All right, filter fabric added along the outside of stone base, crushed stone filter pad, indication of spillway, inclusion of written operation maintenance plan, notations about delineating with boulders and fencing and guide rail, addition of notation indicating there should be no spraying or use of herbicides, 3 of the item talking about the wetland markers, an item indicating that the gravity blocks for the storage areas need to be a specific 4-foot and 4 foot minimum and shall not exceed 6 feet. Addition of notation delineation about ornamental grasses for the proposed filter strip along the edge of the basin. And then it goes on to talk about conditions addressed prior to construction, the $10,000 bond requirement, conditions to be addressed prior to issuance of the CO, prior to the bond release, the standard requirements 1 through 9, timing and expiration, that the specifically, it talks about that since the application represents site completion to address the lapse of the aforementioned previous permit, remediation, restoration, and all work associated with this approval must be completed prior to October 1st, 2018. And then it goes on to list the standard items relative to timing, talks about statements and clarifications, which are all boilerplate. And that's it.
The only thing that I saw in the minutes that I didn't remember hearing, and you might have already put it in there and it might not need to be there, is something about a curved edge and impervious base for storage of wood chips and mulch.
Say it again, what?
Curved edge and impervious base for storage of wood chips and mulch. And I don't know what I was, do you know what
that's
all
that's
about?
the storage bin. You wanted it to have a lip on the end so that water wouldn't drain into it.
Okay, was that in your letter?
It's not in my letter.
And I thought he said he was gonna just raise the bottom of it so the water
Pitch
went
down.
around it, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, I did say that.
Okay, so I'm gonna add a requirement to put a notation that the, add a lip or raised edge along the storage bin so that water runoff doesn't enter into it, and that the storage bin include a pervious bottom.
Is that a good idea to have a lip, because if they're using machinery, they're gonna scratch right over that.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be, it rises up slightly before it goes into the bin, that's all.
All right,
You know, it's not in the
bottom
ground.
or impervious bottom?
A pervious bottom, meaning that it's supposed to have clean mulch and earth material in it, so there's no reason for it not to go down, the water not to go down into the ground.
So he's not gonna raise it?
He's gonna raise, they'll either be raised up a little bit
Or,
with like a little bit of a, call it a ramp going up to it, and then, so the runoff from the site doesn't go in there, but any rain that falls in there will go down into the ground.
I thought they were gonna pitch it, as Ross said, pitch it out. I wouldn't recommend a gravel bottom, because they're gonna be going in there with a payloader.
You would not recommend?
No, because
What could be impervious but also
I'm
solid
thinking
enough
about
to not get disturbed
the
by
person who's using it. They're going with a payloader and they're scooping out mulch. They're gonna be
Yeah, they
pulling
wanna-
up dirt, and gravel.
aerated concrete, I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, you want it concrete?
every bin,
Yeah.
Concrete?
it's gotta have a solid surface under it, or else it's not gonna work properly.
Well, it's gonna be, end up being a bit of a hole.
Well, it's
Yeah.
gonna be in a hole.
So really,
They'll
concrete
have waste
pavement.
product that's
All right,
left
so you want
over.
impervious,
Yeah, I want asphalt or
That was,
concrete
that's
base,
what was
yeah.
in the
Yeah,
minutes,
that makes
was
sense.
impervious.
You know, so you end up with a big pile of junk every year and
Oh, goody, goody.
dumped in the wetlands.
okay,
We're gonna do all
so
this
I'll
crap.
add that note. And you sign it, so you can make sure, Jason signs the letter, so
Yeah.
you can make sure that it says what we talked about.
Absolutely. So,
So we need a motion,
I'm assuming the
but
motion-
there were two commissioners absent
That was me.
last week.
Yeah, and
So I
Jeff.
abstain.
Did anybody
Yeah, I'm
have,
abstaining.
I was here.
you didn't watch
Last time? I was
You
here.
weren't
No.
here this one.
Which one?
425? Yeah, he was.
I was here.
It was Clark
I take it
and
back.
Jeff.
The-
I mean Jim.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
I'm going to the bathroom while you guys take care of this.
So we just
I
have
abstain.
No breedings left anymore.
Where are you going?
3, 4. He can't
Bathroom.
vote.
Let's get this going.
Water pressure. The water
Okay,
pressure's getting
so,
up.
So I need a motion. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the draft as amended.
Do I have a second?
I second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Spence, a second by Commissioner Masteracco. All those in favor say aye.
By accept
Aye.
the draft, you mean you're approving the application.
Yes, approving the application and sending the draft.
All those, let's do that again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Abstain, you abstain.
And with 3 abstentions.
And that's approval with
Conditions.
amended, yeah,
Amended.
Conditions. yeah.
amended conditions.
as amended.
All right.
So we, do you have a question? 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's 403. And the 3 are Keith, because he's new, Clark, because he was absent, and Jim Stewart, because he was absent. Okay.
Okay,
All right, we're good? Okay, 409 Crossville Road, Capiziello. Request for a time extension to complete remediation work. So
Can we just do that along with the?
I'm holding a letter in my hand from Mr. Capiziello. I'm sorry, did I jump the gun on it? Should I not be saying that?
Sorry.
that's it.
You gave me a look like,
I didn't give you a look.
you gave me a look.
I didn't.
I've been married a long time, I know what look is. You gave me a look. Mr. Capiziello was given an approval, and he's saying that due to the extended winter and rainy spring season, I've not been able to complete the remediation work on my property. He has made preparations to commence work and have corresponding with my architect. But I have to meet with you, and I don't know what I don't know what he's writing. He's saying because of the extended winter and rainy season, he hasn't been able to plant his plants, but now he's preparing and he's waiting for the plants to be delivered to him. He had a deadline of the 1st of June. So he's requesting an extension.
But he didn't say how long.
He did not, and I didn't include the email? No, there was another email that,
Yes, you did, I'm sorry, I have it right here.
Okay.
10 more days. On June the 7th, he emailed in saying 10 more days to get the stuff, and I need to pick it up in Massachusetts. A few weeks to do so. I hope this is okay. So I am suggesting a 30-day extension, if anything.
Sounds fine.
End of July. that 30 days? That's close.
Because you know he's now gonna say it's too hot to plant.
Can they plant, that's what I was just gonna ask, can they plant trees in July?
Well, the first one was June.
June
They
1st.
They
June
could
first?
Anytime, as long as they water it.
Yeah, as long as they
Okay.
water it.
Yeah.
Just checking.
And one of the issues that he said from
It was
day
too
one
wet.
was
Too wet.
that it was very wet there all the time.
That's true, you shouldn't need much watering to wet.
So
meadows.
30 days
From June 1st.
from
Yeah,
June,
July 1st.
Just the end of July.
end of
July
July.
31st.
Yeah,
Okay.
60 days, 60 days.
Okay. July 31st is what I'll put. Is that good?
All right, we're moving on to our inland wetland agents activities report.
Do I need a motion for that?
Flexibility.
Just give me your look back.
Do I need a motion for the time extension? I do, don't I?
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second? Any second?
Somebody second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Spence, a second by Commissioner Masterrocco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, 7. So Rebecca duly noted 7.
Duly.
Yay! Okay.
All right, so agent approvals, there are none, permitted uses, none, Department of Public Works, none, and now you're on to enforcement.
Okay, I have been given notice by a fellow commissioner that they are gonna recuse themselves from the Gardner Road one, so I'll start with Form Miller. So IWV 2018-05 Form Miller Drive, Drotar, filling grading within a wetland regulated area. Notice of violation issued.
The plot thickens. Was it yesterday? We received a dump load of fill.
A lot of it, too.
A lot of it. It's a big dump load of fill in the backyard now. He said he had contracted with the guy previously, and he must have forgotten to contact him to tell him he wasn't supposed to deliver it, so now he's got this pile in the backyard.
And he's in a big rush to push it in.
Yes, he is. So we did walk it, and you can see the rubble from the wall, that definitely was there. It didn't look like he pushed it in too far to one side, but parallel with the house, parallel with Monroe Drive, it did look like there was more pushed in there. It was all fresh dirt, and it was, it looked to me to be about 18 inches, 2 feet deep maybe. And the other side where he had leveled it off, it didn't look like he went too far into the wetlands. Look, no, you know.
You mean past the steps, that end?
Yeah, well, past the steps, if you stood on the steps and turned left, that's where that area, where I was standing by the poison ivy.
Yeah.
Boy, does he have nice poison ivy.
Healthy.
Locally
sourced.
Yes, absolutely. All right, where Scott has his pointer now, here.
Cemetery.
We couldn't really tell if it had been pushed out here or not. Ross, did you think that that was pushed down into here?
Looks like it was scraped down.
It
Yeah.
looked to me like where the blue squiggly line is, it looked to me like there might have been some virgin land there. But then the area between the blue line and where the wall was,
Right, in here.
looks like it's all fresh fill.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe it was a belly all the way through there, and he leveled it to where I'm talking about there being some virgin land.
All right, so the goal tonight is to tell me, how do you want this resolved? Do you want him to submit a remediation plan to the commission?
What's the other options?
But he has a load of fill back there.
He's gotta get that fill out of there because that can't get leveled out. It just can't. There's no place to put it. He was saying that all he wants to do is level, he has no yard. All he wants to do is level out this area and build a yard.
Yeah, right into the well.
Right, well, yeah.
He was saying at one point that there was an 8 to 10 foot drop, and there's a 3 foot drop maybe into the wetlands. And it's just like, right in, but it looks like it's fill. It does.
Well, maybe we have to have him have a soil scientist determine where the fill has been placed.
Well, I think that we need to have we have to have them come with a remediation plan.
He's gotta give us something.
I mean,
Scott, could you handle it without anything?
No.
Well, then,
So,
I guess that's our answer.
Well,
We're
I mean,
gonna
if you told me, put up markers and call it a day, then yeah.
No,
Well, he's
well, that's
continuing to-
obviously.
he's
How about if
continuing
we
to work,
told you,
Lois.
dig it out, put it back the way it was, plant trees,
You need the
shrubs,
pile,
Well,
he removed the
and
pile,
put up
right?
markers. Could you
The-
handle that?
No, that little pile is still there.
No,
It's still
because
down in that
I
little
don't know
gully? Because
what
I
you
couldn't
mean
see
by
it from the
plant
road when I
stuff,
drove
you know?
by it a couple times.
Okay, well, then I guess he's gotta
That
do a
pile
plan.
of mortar, brick, concrete from the
Oh,
wall.
that's kind of,
That was the one that was up in the
Mostly
front.
buried.
That has
Originally,
been buried, yes, I think Ross is right.
he
Mostly
buried it or
buried.
something?
Mostly
Buried.
buried, yeah.
We told him
Yeah.
not to do that. It's not.
Yeah, I know, he kept.
so I think that,
Definitely.
And he
a little
took
order,
down-
a
He
little
buried
order,
it
a
and he
little
buried
order, guys,
it
let's
into the
get through this.
wetlands then. He put the
So I think the only
Remember
real
the first
option
picture
we
of the
have
big
here
pile?
is
I said, we
to
gotta get that out of there.
ask for
You're
a
not gonna bury that.
remediation plan, correct?
Correct.
Is part of that, now, how does that happen? You send him a letter?
Yes,
Yeah.
We also
So
took
in that
down-
letter, can you instruct him not to do it, I mean, to
Cease and desist.
stop work and stop bringing dirt in there?
He also took down an 18-inch hickory in the back, which he said was dying, so, I mean, I can understand that. But it went right down into the area that, again, I don't know where that tree was. It might, maybe that was it, but because the trunk is just.
Yeah,
Just
you're
go
Okay,
down, there's
are we
photos.
clear? We good?
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna submit, I'll send out
Must be
a
this
decision letter that, a determination letter that says that he needs to submit a full-blown remediation plan to the commission.
It looks a lot different now, Ross, doesn't
And-
it?
And cease and desist, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he did bury that first original picture of that
Yeah.
giant pile of mortar,
I think so.
concrete, stone, whatever it was, he buried it.
80%.
He must have, he must have.
Because that was right next to the road.
This
That
pile,
original
the
picture.
drop
stuff
pile
right
with
there.
the-
Yeah, that's right next to the road. You could see it from the road. And I drove by and I didn't see that anymore. I'm going, oh, he must have picked it up.
There's like 5 block exposed now, that's it.
Well, yeah, it looked like there was stuff on top of it. I'll give you that.
Okay,
Oh, God.
all right.
Okay,
He bought the property.
remediation plan for that. Hey, did we finished with the sign, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Say Dasani?
Dasani.
That pile's not there anymore, Lois.
All right, next one.
Okay, 344 Gardner Road, Wayne, Mahalka, 2006 mitigation plan not completed, gravel, fill, and wood debris within regulated area.
We gotta get over there, right?
I've been there. I walked it.
Yeah.
Me and Lois were out there. He's got to pull his equipment out. He's got a tractor. Well, one of them has the tractor.
Yeah, let me see.
We suggested that they just
Scroll
put
down
some
to
stones,
footing.
like boulders, to
Yeah.
prevent them from going back in there once they remove all the milling.
Yes, that's Gardner, yep, and there's the,
All right,
Hold
this
on one
side-
second, I'm sorry.
I'm recusing myself from this one and the next one.
okay.
And the next. Countryside Drive.
So I'm gonna,
No, 336 and 344, right?
344 and 336.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Well,
Yeah, just so
Do we
you know.
need, do we need Jeff for the two after that, though?
Oh, what do you need?
Countryside?
those are not ready,
Yeah, they're
so,
not ready.
Oh, we're not doing that.
So we only,
Bye,
I mean,
lucky duck.
well, we have the minutes, the last 2 minutes. Do you
Yeah.
want to vote on the last 2 minutes? You want to wait
Oh,
and vote on that?
They took pictures.
Sure.
Why don't you just do the minutes
Why don't we
now?
just do the minutes?
All right.
and then Jeff.
All right, I'm gonna table the Gardner Roads for a moment, and we're gonna take up the meeting, the minutes of May 23rd, 2000,
No,
I'm sorry,
ninth.
May 9th of 2018.
Abstain from those, because I wasn't there. The next one I could do though.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes of May 9th, 2018.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Or some
oh, no,
discussion?
I'd like to make some amendments.
Okay,
On page 2, this is a minor little
Okay.
typo, as Chairman Grady voiced his frustration and displeasure. It's under commission comments.
I never voice my frustration or displeasure of anything, I'm not sure
Okay.
that that was me.
It was
Next.
you. The next one is on page 3. The last, the top of the page, there's four
Yes.
bullets, the last bullet. It sounds like the commission would be working together to prepare the necessary remediation plan. It just needs rewording so that,
Scott said, commission would be sending a response indicating the changes that they would like to see after the May 23rd, at which time they would work together to prepare a necessary remediation plan.
you see what I mean?
That
It's
Scott,
kinda,
that Scott would work with the applicant?
maybe that was it. That could be it. I
Oh,
knew it
with the
wasn't us.
homeowner, to
All
work
right.
with the homeowner, okay. At
Okay,
which time they would work.
and that was it for that one.
Okay, so I have a motion by, who made that motion? Clark, right? A motion by Commissioner Gingress, and a second by Commissioner Spence to accept the minutes of May 9th with
So we have
edits. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One.
And I have two abstentions. Motion passes with those abstentions.
Okay, so Jeff and Keith abstained from that one.
Oh, I should announce that, right? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Two, Jeff and Keith abstained from the May 9th minutes vote.
Okay, so now we will address the
So there
minutes
was
of
six,
the
zero,
May 23rd,
502.
2018 regular meeting. Any discussion before I hear a motion?
I have something written down, hold it. Oh, no, nope, I have. Move to
Yay.
approve as drafted.
I have a motion to approve as drafted by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shamus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Aye.
I have three abstentions.
Three.
You have them?
What do we have? 4, 0, 3, and it's
Commissioner Gingrich, Commissioner Stewart.
Keith, Clark, and Jim.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes with those abstentions. Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, going back to the two that we missed, and then, all right. Thank you.
Bye. Jeff.
344 Garden Hill Road, Wayne and Kathleen Mihalka.
The green, I'm running it.
So I think Commissioner Spence and Commissioner Gingress went out there. I did not get the opportunity, unfortunately.
Okay,
So-
this is it up on the screen here.
We had a mitigation plan in 2006, it was not completed. What do we want to do with them now?
Do it. They got to take the millings out everywhere, there's millings everywhere.
Yeah, there were a lot of millings on both driveways. The one on the upper one is not as severe, filling wise as the lower one. The lower one must have had.
The low one goes through the whole, from the driveway all the way until you get to the gully where the water runs down the hill.
Yeah.
There's millings all the way out to there, because they leveled it and it's millings all the way
How
out.
much would you say they filled? It looks like they just chewed into the
Yeah, there's gotta
hillside.
be 2, 3, 4 inches of millings. I mean, you can drive that tractor, the tractor's in there, so you could drive the tractor in there, it's like.
I'm thinking about over the edge down
Oh, I
into
don't
the
know how much
wetlands,
over
how
the
much
edge, but
filled.
it's level enough that they probably did, they filled.
You know, it would probably help
This
if you guys
area
could get to
here?
see it too, yeah. That
So, I
where
mean,
the
it sounds like
green
we're gonna
area
need a
is,
new
they filled right
mitigation
up to
plan, because they didn't want to do the driveway, right? That was part of the last mitigation plan, that wasn't necessarily something we were looking for now anyway, right?
Yeah, they didn't want to do the driveway, although they admitted that the driveway was done in millings.
So they leveled the pile of millings out into that one part on the lower house, it's millings all the way out in there.
All the way up here.
So,
So I don't know if they actually filled. I know they moved part of the hillside down, but it doesn't look, on that plan, it doesn't look like they actually got the fill into the wetlands. On the
Yeah, we're
lower,
not
I don't know
picking up-
which number is
yeah,
which, so.
we're not picking up Well, maybe right in that little corner there, yeah.
Yeah, I meant mostly, I thought it was that whole left side of the purple. I thought that was all filled into the wetlands, but apparently it was just the.
I mean, they have
view.
boulders, that leveled out area, there's boulders
Yeah, there's
right
boulders
along the
along the edges.
wetlands.
So the tractor doesn't tumble.
Yeah, so yeah, they didn't like fall off, they would drive the tractor right off the side of it.
So what do we want them to do?
We're gonna have to scoop it all out. I mean, it's in there 3 to 4
Well, I
inches
don't
down.
think we
Again,
could-
you're talking, tonight, you're talking process. What kind of process? What process do you want them to
Remediation
use?
plan.
Is this severe enough to make them go through a whole mitigation plan, I guess is the point here, or?
I can't say, I haven't seen it, I would
I
like
haven't
to see
seen
it.
it. I haven't seen
I
it,
mean,
but
they
it,
already had a mitigation plan, so it's not like they have to start from scratch. And remember, by the way, when you guys ask for it to be done administratively, they still have to do a plan, and they still have to do a lot of what they do. They just don't have to come before you.
Right.
So, you know,
He's not gonna be able to sell his house with that, with those millings in there. Cause it goes into the wetlands.
well, the violation is recorded already,
Yeah,
so it's already there,
yeah.
right?
And
So,
have you seen the mitigation plan? You have.
yeah, he had it the night he
The
came.
mediation plan
Oh, I don't
original?
remember what it was.
So that would stop them from selling the house, so like when the lawyer goes and
Unless
does
it's
the
here.
search?
if someone
The
looks on the
minute-
land records, it
The
could be brought
mitigation
up, yeah.
plan didn't address millings, because that wasn't part of it. And it didn't address landscaping. There was no landscape. So there's nothing, what the mitigation plan said was that they were gonna pave the driveway and they were gonna have a catch basin with a sedimentation basin. But it really didn't address the two purple areas there and how to restore them.
They're
And how to-
pretty stable the way they are right now, but they're stabilized with millings,
Well,
so.
yeah, they're pretty stable.
Yeah,
And how to, once they're put back into a condition that's more like a buffer, what's gonna be done to keep people out of it? To keep them from going back in and doing the
Well, I
same?
would say some boulders across the,
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
we have to have them come back with a new plan, well, with a plan.
So do you want, the new plan will, for both of these, is going to be, you want them to address removed millings. You want them to establish barriers. Do you want them to plant? Do you want to see planting plan?
It's grown, I mean, they haven't cut anything down, it's growing,
When
It's
they
going
remove the
weeds.
millings,
it's
in
mostly
those two
weeds
pur-
from,
When they remove the millings in the two purple areas,
yeah, then they'll
There's
have to
gonna be
plant.
nothing, we're gonna have to
so
plant
you
those
want to see
areas
a
back in.
planting plan.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
with trees,
Gots to have the plan.
not just grass.
What do you want them to do with their driveway? They've never paved it, it's got millings.
Is it required to pave it?
They're-
Zoning?
No,
Leave it.
so you don't really want to go there. So you won't
They can
mention-
pave it if they
touch
want
the
to.
driveway, I mean,
All right, so you want.
just as long as they don't keep
you
driving
want them
down
to-
into the
To submit a
wetlands.
remediation application, or they want a remediation plan to remove millings, establish barriers, and provide a planting plan.
Yeah.
Okay, will do.
Excellent.
Okay. And the other two are not ready, so you don't have them yet.
Okay, so we're not doing those till next time. We will table IWB 2018-07, IWB 2018-08. We did the minutes, any news from the regulation committee?
No.
Any news from the
No,
public
yeah.
outreach committee? Okay, correspondence,
We got, they're treating Lake Shore for nuisance plants. So,
okay.
that's it.
Motion to
It's
adjourn.
scheduled for 2 weeks ago.
I have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner
Second.
Stewart. Do I have a second by Commissioner Spence? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Case closed.
That was-
Case closed.
Case closed.